Yes, quickest to everybody. Roll call, please, Jen.
Mike Dolson.
I'm here.
Tom McDonald.
Here.
Jennifer Finley. Here. Jim Molitaire. He is actually at a doctor's appointment this morning. Carol Langford. Danielle Matt. Here. Big Matt. Jane Steele Jr. Martin Charlo. He is also having to bring his dad to a doctor's appointment. Len Tootie.
I'm here.
Lenish Trahan.
Stephen, would you give us a prayer this morning? Stephen. I'll go ask him. Will you give us a prayer, please, Stephen? Lamb, Stephen. The agenda goes to the flag song. Item lunch. Well, we're at the point in the agenda where we ask if there are any elders that want to talk. Are there any elders? Stephen, are you going to give us a lecture today? Shirley? Rams.
Lambda special. Testing. Could you hear me? Lambda special. Wat zei ik? Goed, het spiste, just empty. Oh, het gaat goed, het een piets, wat zei. Kas goed om te zeggen. Spense, kijk wat je doet. Just empty, ook het goed. Zo kas kijk, boetikas, tjentem. Kijk, zo nu, om zoeken. En question, skadi kun question. Zij tukas tchedum kasia. Tam chmi kempele, tam chmi kusum. Sinjedemen otskaet kasia. Nepiste wat nemke. Kwal nuntem tu she kumi. Tutskasip tukas skadi. Chmi skadi kukas owo shika huitsen mit skadi. Kijk, gooi. Oh, zo zei. Zet een recht. Recht, stem, jojoot, skadig. Lucas goed. Dus goed met zoete. Zeker koeitje. Zo goed is ja. Zo kempele. Zo lekker skadig. Goed zo is het piep goed, het skasip. Nem hoe, ke mistuk skadig, zo nek skadig. Je takke zo wel skadig, je takke skoedem zo zei. Kom mee, ke schudlied. Luke skadig ke zo wel zei. Hoe nek zo zei. Yet Washington pupusenti, with all motken. Show us questions, ja. Doet goeie. Zet een kwastpachem. Ja. De kwestie zei. Doe is poos. Dan je me goeie. Zoek heb je behoort. Kijk kwestie, zoek uit uw leven. Kijk wat goed om zo zei. Dan maar. Geen plek ook uit uw leven. Kijk goed wat zei. Jetzt wat je zoekt. Daar. Kijk een chemet komt uit uw leven. Geest met status zei. Jetzt wat je een spaar hem zo zei. Het is goed. Het is een kom hier. Het is een zoek net je het open. Kom hier, het is een zoek net. Zo schaddig. Je saimte, zet een geest, zet je saimte. Wat stem moet je ons zeggen? Zet een arts, zet een arts. Het zie. In de mecho moet je zien, na. Nooit schaddig, zo zei. Kijk eens. Zo schaddig, hoe je zo wel ziet. Je saimte, zo wat zei. En maar zei het ook eens goed. Zo te kempelen. Hey, grandfather. Jammed some here. I know I missed a lot of times coming here. I'm getting old. I forget to come here. And I'm always missing the quarterly meeting. Yesterday I went up to over there was lots and lots of people. I was just so happy. Even JR from Washington pulled up there. it's something that we're still holding on to. And, it makes me happy just to go there and say a prayer, to see all the people, my relatives, my friends, and everything. I'm hurting. I'm really hurting today, for a lot of things for our country. That's what is happening to us. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just like that coyote story, The coyote, that one story said, it made the men. Then the men couldn't handle it. They started fighting each other. And that's the way he took them all back. Now, that's the way I feel today, with our country. What's happening to our country? We worked for that Social Security. Now they're trying to take it away. They're trying to make us feel bad. They're trying to make us feel bad and saying, we're taking that money, We're not taking that money. We earned it. I know Shirley's still working there. I'm working there for our language. And why are they saying that to us? It's time to step up, and saying, you can't take that away from us, We earn that, This is our land right here, That's what makes me so mad, To us people. I don't know what we're going to do, I don't know, What are we going to do? Are you councilmen going to tell us what we could do or what we can do, That's what I'm here for, I'm talking for the people. I hope I'm talking for the people. I'm talking for the elders, Talking for our country. This is our country right here, We were here before the white people were here. For everybody was here before, Indian people, What's going to happen when they say, well, we're going to take the Indians away? We got nowhere to go. This is our country. This is where we belong. Maybe they're going to send us to the moon or Mars or whatever, They should send those too, wherever. Back to Germany or where did they come from, That's who they are, Gee, that makes me mad, Makes people mad. Makes the elders mad. All of us, This is our country. I wish your councilman would tell us what's happening today, Are we just going to sit here until they come and say, well, gee, I don't know what to say, Long time ago, when the elders, I'm 85 years old. Long time ago, I thought we had it tough then, We even got it worse today. That was good times long time ago. We could do whatever we want to, So many people moving into our country. I go to the dump in Charlotte. There's 11 new houses going up already. Yeah. It hurts me, It hurts the elders. I know it hurts the elders, Hurts me. Could you guys tell us today what's happening, Seems like every time I talk to someone, oh, don't worry. Yes, I am worried. We're all worried, Yeah, so some of these days they're going to come and say, no more language. No more little kids going to school for the language. Taking that away from us. It really hurts me, you know. We got to do something, you know. I guess I'll have to get my bone arrow ready, you know. Yeah, that's what it is. You councilmen tell us what we could do. Our lawyers could tell us, you know. Gee, maybe they'll send us all back to Mexico. We're not even Mexicans. Gee, they're taking everything away. Gas prices going up. Cars are going up. You know, that's funny. A long time ago, I used to go in there and buy a car for $5,000. Yesterday, I stopped in when we come back. One guy, I went in there and I said, "Hey, I got 5,000 right here." He said, "You see that front door? Yeah." You go in. You see that back door? That's where you go. We don't have no more $5,000 cars. They're all 20,000. You know, food is going up. Everything's going up. So today I'm here. I'm sorry I had to bring this to you guys, you know. But you're our councilman, you know. You're our lawyers. You're supposed to let us know, you know. Is the elder safe? Is our Indian tribe safe? You know. Sure hard, you know. Sure hard for me, you know. For us Indian people. For our drummers, some these days, no more drums, please. Yeah. No more Indian people. Oh, that makes me mad, you know. So today, just like the elders were saying, some these days, we're not going to have any more language. Yeah, today's a tough day for us. For all of us. I know, for all of us, not just me. But somebody got to say something. Somebody's got to say something. We can't just sit here and say, maybe I'll fly over it. Oh, no, surely. We got to say something. Elders got to say something, you know. Councilman, you got to tell us what's going on. That's what I'm here for, you know. Maybe when I get home, I should watch cartoons instead of watching Trump and all these guys, you know. Then I wouldn't, you know, laugh around for a while, you know. Enjoy myself, you know. Can't even watch Bugs Bunny anymore, you know. They're off, you know. You know, life's changed, you know, today. I just want to know where we stand. That's why I'm here for, you know. I mean, surely our elders, you know, tell us. Today, I want to know. Don't just tell her we're working on it, you know. I've been working at Ngusim for 22 years, going on 22 years, trying to teach those little kids how to talk Indian, you know. 22 years. I've been hanging tough because my elders told me, never give up, you know. Never give up talking. Schedule. You know, trying my best. Today they're trying to take it away. Trying to take those little kids. Little kids. We're going to close the school down for the little ones. They don't have to talk. I'm not talking about the Indians, but everybody, you know, they're closing it down. You don't need education, you know. My gosh, maybe that's where we're going. Yeah, they're sending everybody back to Mexico. Those white people going to go out there and start digging for potatoes and whatever. No ways. We need those people. Yeah, it's scary. Could I have a cup of coffee? I joke. I was just teasing you. And anyway, today, I wanted to talk. I want to know what's going on from the councilmen, from the lawyers. I just want to know. I just want to know, are we safe? We're the first people here. Indian people were here first. Yeah, that's what I want to know. I'm hurt. Elders are hurt. People are hurting. I hope. So anyway, that's what I wanted to come here and talk to you guys. Tell me if I should pack up and go to Mars or whatever, or go to Mexico or whatever. Things are like that. So anyway, today I'm going to close up, and I thank you for Shirley being here, one of our elders, and for all of us, and tell us if we're safe or not, or start packing up. And Shirley's going to go to Mars. I don't even know where Mars is. Okay, I'm done. So, Lemlev Specia. And I hope you give us good news or bad news or whatever. I just want to come here. So, Lemlev Specia.
Step.
Lemlum Specia. Is it on? Lemlum Specia. Let me stand up here for a second. I'm very thankful to be here today. I haven't been to the quarterly for quite a few months, maybe years. And I'm happy to be a part of the Sedlish Kalispe Culture Committee, and I'm proud to be a part of the Sedlish Kalispe tribe. And that's what my work is at the Longhouse, is the language and the culture, among other things that I'm directed to work in. And I hope one day to be as fluent a speaker as Stephen. I'm glad I understood everything he said. And that's because of my mom and my dad. They spoke the language in our home. Of course, at school, we were not allowed to speak our language, even in a public school. And so when we went home, our folks spoke the language. The people around us, there was many, many tribal people yet when I was growing up. All those people are pretty much gone now. And it's up to me and others like me to keep the language and culture going. And that's why I'm in the language program. And yesterday, like Stephen said, we did go to the medicine tree. It was a good day. We kind of had a little bit of drizzle and a little bit of snow while we were there. And when we finished our lunch at the at the tree, we went to St. Mary's in Stevensville. And we went and visited the graves of our people who are buried there, many of our ancestors. We prayed there, and then we came home. When we came home, we hit a storm, snow, and that's okay. I'm glad it snowed because we need that. We need that moisture. And my language, we need that too. We need our culture. Otherwise, we're going to lose our identity. And that's something we don't want to let go of. We have to hold on to that. We have to give that to our kids so when they have kids and their kids have kids, they'll still have their identity. It's kind of hard because of all the different people moving onto our reservation, into our space, into our part of Montana. That's hard to see. I wish it could be different. One of the things I think about is prayer to see us through these times so we won't lose what we have. So we'll have everything to give to our young people, our kids, our babies, our grandkids. So thank you all for listening. Keep on going. Don't stop. Remember who you are. Don't give it up. Lamb.
Thank you, Shirley. Any other elders that want to speak today? Well, the next part of the agenda is to actually recognize David Whitlock as a recent retiree. And so I want to thank David for his work for the tribe for all these years and wish him well on his retirement. David here? No. Okay, read for the record. And then the next thing on the agenda is to invite Dre's up. We have a three-peat state champion with us today. Come on up. Dre is a PT. A wonderful job. One state champion is an excellent feat just to start with, let alone two and now three state champions in a row.
We go. Tirza hasn't gone live or public with her commitment yet. She has chosen a college to attend, but on April 12th, the Kalispell Wrestling Club has their annual fundraiser. And so she will do her signing there, and she'll go live and share with everybody else. Very exciting.
Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on a repeat, and want to recognize the other members of the wrestling team that are here. You came in second place, and it was a great season for the Ronan Wrestling Club. Please, those other wrestlers, please come on up, and we want to applaud you for your second place finish if you're here, if there's any other wrestlers here. Go on up. Thank you. Ronan did pretty good. They in boys basketball, they got fourth at state also, but Ronan represented our reservation very well. The wrestling program in Ronan since 1967 has come a long way. And that's when we started it. I'm one of those old guys. Myself and Robert Snyder were the very first state champion wrestlers from Ronan in 1967. It was AAU state. We just started the high school program that year.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, and distinguished membership. I just wanted to quickly say a few words about these young ladies. They are so brave, and I commend each and every one of them for what they've done, especially to create a women's wrestling organization within the school. And I think it's really important that they know that there are a lot of young women, young ladies that really look up to them, and you're inspirational to many. And I want to thank you all for stepping up. And I also want to acknowledge the parents, because the parents go through a lot to support their kids in these activities, and their grandma. And I know they're always so proud of their kid, but I just wanted to just really acknowledge these ladies, because this was a huge accomplishment for what they've done and not only that, they represented our tribe in a very good way. So thank you all.
Go ahead, Carol.
I don't want to repeat what Len and Tom said, very nice words, but I want to acknowledge your ribbon skirts. I think they're so beautiful, and it represents us as Indian people, and just really appreciate seeing that. Makes me so happy when, you go to a place and you don't usually see that, and then you guys are wearing it. It's just wonderful. So thank you so much, and congratulations. And Constance, I see you out there, and it's good to see you. But thanks everybody for being here for them.
And ladies, good luck in the coming years. I look to hear more about you girls. Thank you. And we'll have the honor song now. Well, Armstrong. We're at the point in the agenda, we'll take a break. I want to remind folks that there is breakfast still available. So during the break, go ahead and get some food. There was some bread delivered out that's free for the taking out in the foyer, and Tribal Health is here. So if you're looking for a shot from Tribal Health, that's available as well. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll invite anybody from the audience that wants to speak. So take a break.
Just a reminder, everybody, please sign up with Jennifer if you want to speak at the mic. When we go back into session, please sign up with Jennifer.
How's that? Want a close up one then? And one back further.
We're gonna start, but we'll over here to get ready to. Get Marco going there.
It cost you guys how much? $436?
But then you have to give the tribe like 370.
That's pretty good. I mean, I had to pay 310, then we brought it out here and charged me 6 because mine was 610 pounds. Yeah. $1 a pound? I got. Is that about 18 boxes altogether? For 2 bison? Travis got one and I got one. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We'll come back to order and we'll get the open floor membership part of the agenda going. Hello, hello. Let's come back to order. Yes, Steve. Back to order, please. Back to order. Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Good job, ladies. And so on the agenda now, we have open floor for any of the membership that wants to speak. And so far we have Sam Barnaby. Where's Sam? Welcome, Sam.
Good morning. Esqueq. Well, here we are again. I'm glad to be here. A little sore, but had some chiropractic issues I had to take care of this morning. Almost forgot about what's going on here, but people keep me in the loop and glad to be here. I just want to get to the bottom line of basically there's issues which one has been resolved today, which I feel very happy about. The membership gets to get their say before all these other business things are on the agenda. And we've seen in the past, by the time that the membership gets to say anything, you fizzled out and you don't got nobody, you know. So you kind of like keep your slate clean from getting your applause, but at the same time getting the things that you could work on individually and collectively as a council. And so I thank you for giving the membership the opportunity at the beginning of the meetings to express their concerns and aspirations and hopes for the tribe. But there's still other issues that need to be resolved. There's a lot of departments in this organization that we call the tribe, a sovereign nation, that need to be addressed. One is across the street with the CPS. It's an ongoing struggle. We've had people in there in the past who done an outstanding job, but because of personal issues have been sent elsewhere to find jobs elsewhere. I seen her in here earlier, Constance Marjo. She was an excellent asset to the CPS. Carmelita Matt was an asset. Carol Henneque was an asset. But now we have all these 5 executives that you created who kind of get their hands in the pot. Hibbler, Kershane, Trosper, Thompson, Jordan Thompson. They don't know nothing about the Native American people, where we came from. Gotten the roles probably in the last 10 years, miraculously or whatever. And more so in the last 2 years since the new council people were voted into office. What have you done for your Native American tribal membership here on the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, including the Pend Oreille people? There's a lot of things that need to be done. We are at the mere disaster of things going on. You think Trump's doing bad now, you just think when he gets down to our organizations and whatnot, what are we going to do to protect ourselves from that? Are the 10 of you all comfy to where you're at, to where you receive the stipend or the incentive of being a council representative for yourselves and not your people? I'm glad that the chairman is holding himself accountable, holding those district meetings that he said that he would do. But at the same time, my heart becomes discerned when my aunt tells me on a constant basis when she's gone to those meetings that he addresses the people as you people. But are you, Chairman? You're one of our people. You need to be inclusive. But then again, there we go about diversity, inclusion, and equality. We've seen that in the Harris campaign, but now it's all pretty much dissolved. Even in the market that I work in, retail, they got what they needed to get the blacks, the Hispanics, and whatnot to be at the front market of getting people to think that retail is a great place to be. But now it really isn't, because there is no equal employment opportunity for anybody, including myself. I'm fortunate to be ex-management with Walmart, and I still say it, and I'll say it till the day I die. It was probably the best retail chain, and still is, that I've ever worked for. I worked for Kroger, I worked for IGA, worked for Smith's Food and Drug, Ralph's. But we're at that point to where we need to step up. And 5 months ago when I came back, and I see in the minutes and I hear by hearsay, Ralph Foster's brought to you mortuary business, something that we need, something that's a must. People die every day, and we don't like to see death, but it's part of the plan of salvation if you want to really get down to it. God created this wonderful earth that we have. Adam and Eve came about, the animals came about, the plants came about, the herbs, the things that we lived off of, our ancestors lived off of. What are we doing to make sure that that continues to go on? You know, and we talk about preservation, and there's a lot of things that are upsetting about it, because I think about myself, 57 years old, and I think about some people who have come before you with concerns about the culture committees. My mother didn't become a part of the culture committee, my dad did. But then it's like there's always a division. It's like, do you have to be from a certain family to be able to be a part of the culture committee? Philip Paul addressed you about that months ago. And then the new director, Sadie, does she have anything to do with culture other than her relatives who are part of that culture committee? Probably not. Yeah, call me a liar. I don't really care. Truth hurts. And it's, that's just a mere factor of why my aunts over there in Camas Prairie have felt the same way that our mother has always felt. Never being included, never being a part of anything. We know the history about Harriet McDougall. Her house never did get built, never did get helped out on that. She ended up dying even before she could see that help that she said that was promised her. Our people are important. We think about the Nine Pipe Lodge, could have been a rest home for our people. But we missed out on that. You got St. Ignatius or Mortonville going on all across the reservation. That's not native. That's not taking care of our people. I would just hope that each and every one of you would individually and collectively know that how hard it is for each and every one of you individually fighting for our people. I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again. And the audience can agree or disagree. That's what politics is all about. It's opinions. But we need to get rid of the executive. We need to rescind the motions. We have tribal elections coming up, and we haven't even resolved any of those things that need to be taken care of. The at-large seats, we've heard the concerns, not just from Sonny Boy, my older brother, but even the regular membership. One who I consider my cousin because her mother was married to our uncle, Ruth Swaney, has also addressed that. All these issues need to be, addressed. She's been in the government politics, and I applaud everything that she's done. She's done a great job. She's got a marvelous, heritage with her dad and her mother both, to understanding the things that are important. And one of those things is, like I said, our elections. Because if we truthfully want to go back to the Constitution and the way it's written out, there are seats that are being held illegally. You shouldn't be on council. And even if you are in a seat that you are representing the people that you supposedly represent, what have you done in the last 2 years? And like I said, I know it's hard for people that I consider to be great council people. I think about those gentlemen on the wall there just as much as those 3 chieftains that are pictorials behind you in this room, who are probably turning over their graves because of the things that they were able to do for our people. Pat left 10, Mary left 10, Joe McDonald, Bearhead Swaney, so many other countless people on that council that were there, and they were there for the people. They didn't just go out and meander to get your vote and then all of a sudden just take a back seat and say, well, I've gotten where I need to be. I had that happen to me. I've seen firsthand what it's like. I love each and every one of you, councilmen, personally on a personal level, but when it comes to the seats that you hold here, it can kind of stagnate between two different things because we need to understand that we're all one people. We need to stand together, not divided. I've come to the realization that, we all make mistakes. I can think of a time back when we had an executive director and all that stuff on council, and Bud Moran took care of that, and then, all these other things, and James Steele stepped up at one time, James Steele Jr., for the people. But I can honestly say that sometimes when things aren't happening the way that you'd like things to happen, including like this mortuary business, because of personal things or whatever, I'm glad that my nephew, baby Dave, has gotten over things. Him and Ralph have a great relationship. Some of us in all entities of life need to sometimes take into consideration of what our mom would always say to us when we'd spill a glass of milk or something, and she'd just make it into something humorous. She says, no use in crying over spilt milk. Get your ass up and go pour yourself another glass. Clean up that mess. Well, the same stands true with getting over hardships, getting over things, Build a bridge and get over it. Because we need to move on, and we need to be what people out there on the outside skirts of this reservation think that we are. Because in a lot of regards, I don't believe we are anymore. We've taken, instead of 2 steps back, probably 200 steps back instead of forward. I just want to, like I said, applaud you for at least taking one consideration of what the people have asked for over the last few years of letting us speak our minds so that things don't dwindle out when you're giving out awards to all these different departments that need to be held accountable for what they've done. And again, I reiterate, CPS, the 5 executives need to be gone. The election committee needs to do something about the elections and how they should be held and how those seats should be accounted for to how you can actually run for those seats according to the Constitution that was set up. Lemlem Specia.
Sam? Sam?
Esquequist. Chehenum, I guess, yet trois. We don't have 10 of you here present today. We have 8 of you. Thank you. I usually don't do too much public speaking. I mostly keep to myself. We have a little group. It's called Ulyuchiskeli. We actually practice our way of life the best we can in these times that we're living in. We don't put ourselves out here too much in the public. But there's a lot that the language misses. Our cultural language is not necessarily the same language that is spoken on a daily basis. There's more to it. There's a lot of depth to that language, a lot of meaning So I always start out by saying, Eshe tex lamptum, Shuka Kolchamotion, Shuka Sweetson, Jusiniop Eoten, Uputi Ka. You know, this morning said that as I was heading down the road, as I do every day. I always thank our ancestors for the strength they gave us that we're still here today. I think that's really important, you know. Kesputem, Lucelation Kuramis. And we need to honor. That's what we try to do. We try to honor our way of life. There's just so much that we've lost. So, yesterday, when I was at Chikae, down near Elamish, I was thinking about how much we've lost. The inception of the Culture Committee 50 years ago, whatever, how much have been lost along that way. And that we should reflect on what we've lost as far as who we are and what we represent to our families. But not to be sad, but how can we build back? How can we strengthen ourselves? You know, I always say to our people in our group, our way of life isn't gone. It's right here. It's up to us individually to pick it up if we choose to. I wanted to thank our council for giving me the opportunity last fall, to represent our tribes at the Buffalo Treaty up there that was held in Kainai country. It was a great honor to represent us, to represent Arlene's family story a little bit about Atatitse, to sing our Buffalo song, to have a little conversation with different tribal people. And that how significant it is that it's this herd that created so many living environments for them in other places. So I want to thank all of you for giving me that opportunity to be a part of that. You know, I'm not here to run down council. I'm not here to get into your personal preferences. What I think we need to do for myself is to, if I'm going to say something, maybe I need to back that up with what I think could be a solution. It might not be the solution that works. It's my opinion, but it should be something that moves us forward as a tribes. And so there's a few things that I've mentioned more on a private scale. You know, I respect our flag that represents who we are. But I really feel that we should have a new flag that represents better represents all three tribes here. And to honorably put that flag in an honorable place, and to have a flag that represents who we are as all tribes. I know I've said to my daughter, I says, you know, big medicine is something that's kind of in our time, even though I didn't get to see big medicine. I was born a little bit later. You know, it was just a suggestion. You know, I thought that would be kind of cool. But whatever we came up with, I think that it would be neat to see something that represents all of us. And kind of starting our journey anew, you know. I want to kind of briefly bring up the language part. You know, I've said that, you know, there's all this software out here that can help people learn how to learn the dialect, get some of the sounds down, and then they can figure out what direction they want to take with that as they go through their life. And it should be available to employees of the tribe. I believe that software, the Salish software or whatever the Kootenai software has, should be available on all of our systems. And that we should be able to write in that language of represents all of the tribes here. You know, we give a half-hour leave for physical fitness. I would like to look at our leadership to give people a half-hour leave to practice their language if they choose to. You know, make it available, make it accessible. Let's be a leader in that. If we say this is important for our culture, our way of life, help us to model that. You know, help us to strengthen that. You know, and that's what I want to say about that. In regards to the Culture Committee, you know, there's a lot of people that have been talking publicly, this or that, about their discontent with the Culture Committee. I privately had some of my own personal concerns. But I went to the Culture Committee meeting here probably a month ago, and I try to sit with things and sit with it and think about it and feel about it, pray about it. It's too bad that we're in a time as a tribe that we have so much division. You're not this, you're not that, you're not on first, you know. So I said to Sadie, and I hope I can say it, I said to Sadie, and I'm not going to go into our deeper conversation, but I said I throw my support behind Sadie. Because I'd rather see us figure out how we can support Sadie and that our Culture Committee can navigate in a positive way, in a positive direction, to put us on a good road. She's young. She has the ability to learn a lot to help us. So instead of slinging mud, I want to throw my support behind Sadie. I'm not part of the Culture Committee. But in line with that, there are things that the Culture Committee doesn't always address that are significant to us, our little group, Uliuchiskeli. And I'd like to have your consideration to possibly run it by us. I could be contacted if there's something that we could add to maybe be helpful. It's not like we have the answer for everything, because we don't. You know, my dad told me a long time ago, my stepdad, his name was Hi Nick. So I lived on the Kalispeh reservation for many years. And that's where I picked up our culture. And then my generational grandmother, Sin she was actually a Kalispeh. And they're the ones that they write about that went to get her boys down in St. Louis. That's my generational grandmother. Anyway, he'd say, we're all equals. Treat people like you'd want to be treated. He always said, we're all equals. And when he would go and pray, he never forgot about the people living on the streets. He never forgot about people that were having possibly difficult times in their life. And I'm far from perfect, but I do try to live my life following that example. So it don't do me no good to be saying anything negative that's not going to be helpful for myself. And I appreciate you. One of the things I see in the departments, I would like to see addressed a little bit, if possible. If not, that's okay. You know, this ADP is like 1, 2, 3. You know, I can't change what's already in place. I don't have that power. Not asking for a change. I just want our council to remember that people are human doings, human beings. They're not robots, you know, and that we always have empathy towards our membership. With that, I would like to say that I wish that our council was able to not have to deal with personnel issues unless it was a blazing fire. You know, that those issues could be handled more readily, more in a timely manner within that department. You know, I don't know how to resolve that issue. I just feel that our council has a lot on their plate. And there's a lot of things out there that are challenging us as a tribes here, not only here, but throughout the nation. You know, and then I could go on, you know, but I'd like to offer the council, if you ever want to meet with me privately, you know, for a half hour or something, with any concern, I would be glad to do that, you know. Not that I'm anybody, but so there's this old man. I have to read this. I apologize. His name is Dag Abbey. So he's a old ultra marathon runner now. But he said something, and I translated in Salish. But he said, "Kukas trishiepelen sutamist, tame ko ep es mok kashalutumst." What he said was, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, and always have a mountain in life to climb. You know, I appreciate you folks. Thank you for your work. Thank you for allowing me a moment of your time.
Thank you, Sam. Robert Schultz.
Hi, my name is Robert Schultz. I'm age 54. I'd like to bring up two things. Since I was a little kid, I've been traveling to Palos like Elmo, Browning, Heartbeat. Our Lee Powell grounds, they should get a new dancing arena like Elmo, Browning, and Heartbeat. Our Lee Powell grounds, their dancing arena, that's too small. We need something different for our league. Polo grounds. I wish somebody can help us build a new dancing arena. 'Cause since I was a little kid, my stepdad, my mom was on power committee. That's kind of too small for our dancers. And me, when my stepdad was alive, he taught me how to sing. I like to sing. That keeps my heart going. And then another thing too, I'm trying to get help where my mom and my stepdad used to stay in Mission on Airport Road. I can give, if I can get help, and I'll be happy where my mom and my stepdad was staying in Mission. If somebody can help me talk to Travel Land, I'll be happy. Where my mom and my stepdad was staying, I can give them $100 every month if I can stay up there. And then I'll keep that lot clean if I can stay up there. 'Cause this coming Monday, I have a big meeting with housing, bunch of people. They want to know where I want to stay. I just want to stay where my mom and my stepdad was staying in Mission, where they had that land. I don't want to stay with nobody else. 'Cause since my mom and my stepdad passed away, I've been staying in my car. I don't like staying with nobody but my own self. I can take care of myself, even though if I have health issues. I can take care of myself. I'm watching my weight, watching my health. But I'm trying to fight with my mom and my stepdad's land to see if I can stay up there. But right now, what's keeping me going is every day, every night, I think about my mom and my stepdad and my brother and my two nephews. This is hard. But what keeps me going, I do a lot of eating. I have to show you guys my work, what I do. That keeps my heart going. Keeps stress off of me. And I like staying with my Uncle Jim, 'cause at night I listen to different stuff. I like listening to Bigfoot. I like it up at the old place where Jim's staying. I like it up there too. And another thing, I don't want to take too much time. Another thing I'm working on a case over in Browning with my real dad. stuff in Browning. My real dad hasn't been seen for 48 years. Because when my mom was alive, she used to call prisons. I'm getting stuff done over in Browning too. And then if I get, hopefully I can get something from there pretty soon. And then I'll see if I can get my mom and my stepdad's land. I'll be happy if I can move back up to my mom's land if they let me. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Well, that's all the folks we have scheduled for speaking. So I think Sadie's next on our agenda. Robert. Yeah. Scott, welcome.
Okay, Esquexpesia. Esquexpesia. Chenes lemti jetwa. Today, I'm thankful to be here in front of you all. Thanks for having us. My heart is really happy today. Yesterday, we had an awesome trip with our membership down to the medicine tree, as was mentioned before. There was a lot of people there. There were a lot of kids there. So it was a really nice day. It was kind of cold, but it was just good to be together. Today, we just want to share with you the Culture Committee's celebrating our 50th year of existence. Just thinking back on how the Culture Committee began 50 years ago, with just a small group of people, a small grant put together, and a small group of people that came together to start sharing stories. It's amazing of how far things have come to today. There's been a lot of work done in those 50 years. A lot of elders have shared a lot of things in that time. And so this year we're going to be celebrating that 50 years. And Jan, who is our new language, our outreach and education coordinator, came through our language program. Jan quit her job or left her job at personnel to come learn the language. And the language program that we have is really vibrant and it's blossoming, it's continuing to grow. Today, they're actually down there with Indian Country today, doing some interviews. And so we're looking forward to how that's going to come out and just to share our language revitalization efforts with everybody. I like to say those language revitalization efforts really began 50 years ago when our first director, Johnny Arley, hit record on those little recorders. So Jan is our new outreach and education specialist, and I'd like for her to share with you all what our plans are for celebrating our 50th year anniversary.
Esquexpesia. Yeah, my name is Jan, like Sadie said. So we have been planning, I'm kind of running off kind of what Shirley's idea, so we kind of went this way. And I did talk with Sam, he kind of clarified it for me. I don't want to, and it was a back conversation, but we wanted to call it like old style fashion show. And we want our people to learn how our people dressed. Because, you know, we're all so mixed now. And what the culture committee does is we're focused on the Salish Kalispe, ways. That's what we're doing. We're preserving, protecting, and perpetuating. So, we thought for April until November, we are going to have, classes at the culture committee. And hopefully, Sam kind of touched on it too. We were hoping that, we could have tribal employees that would be able to go and maybe possibly get change of duty. Or, because sometimes they are the ones that lack, attendance of things because they do have to work. And they are parents of children that do need to learn, do need to maybe, like the other Sam had said, is maybe learn their culture and be more cultural. Be out there dancing, be out there singing. So our goal is to build from, you know, if you have start from beadwork, leggings, breechcloth, we're gonna have days from now. We're gonna start Thursdays from 12 to 4:30. And the reason for that is until I graduate, then I can go on Fridays. That way everybody can be, possibly attend, so. But first and foremost, we want this kind of like building up to the end result. We're not making people mandatory to join the fashion show for the elders for the Christmas dinner, but we would sure like them to volunteer and, show off their work. So, I don't know what else we need.
The other thing that we're doing is we've had a lot of requests for information to be shared, so we're gonna be sharing information on the employee internet. We're gonna use social media, our Facebook page, as well as Charcusta News. So we're working with the communications director and trying to help make that happen and just get as much information as we can out to our community and to our membership and to those who want to learn. So we're on our way to doing that. We hope to grow capacity as well, and adding staff members so we can get to these goals that we have. Right now we have a pretty small staff and we just continue to hope to grow and be able to reach those goals. You have anything else to add?
I'm glad I'm there for the staff to help them. I don't know everything, but there are some things I do know about our culture and our language, and I share that with the staff. We're trying to share it with the public, meaning our tribal people. But that's kind of up to the individuals. If you want to learn, there are things out there for you to look at and to follow. We have our events that you could be involved in. There are things even on the internet. We have a lot of stuff that we have recorded over the years. We plan on taking some piece of a recording and putting it on the internet for the people to look at and learn from. It will be bilingual in the language and in English. We are wanting to do this for those people who had the dreams to not let our language and culture just go by the wayside. They didn't want our identity to go away. And they thought that everybody who was an enrolled member should learn these things so our ways will never be forgotten. Never, will always be here. And so, and I just want to say about Sadie, she grew up in a home where her mother was very strict and her yaya was very adamant about her grandchildren learning. learning our ways, learning our language, and that was Dolly. She was our mentor, most of us in our family. So Sadie has good beginnings. She's young, but she's been at the culture committee for almost 20 years. And she was appointed by our late Ilimihum Tony in Kashola. He taught her what she needed to know to run the culture committee. And she's doing an excellent job. She works hard. And I just think that she really deserves better words from people who don't know her very well. She's working hard. She's trying her best. But like she said, we only have a small staff to get so many things accomplished. There's many demands on her time. So I just can't say too much about her. She's a good leader. She's hardworking. She's dedicated to our language and culture. So I guess I better be quiet now. I could go on, but I won't. Lemdum Sadie for all you do.
Yeah, lem for your words. I don't do that alone. I do that with our staff. Our staff is huge help when we work together as a team. Our Elders Advisory Council continue to guide us and lead us in what we need to do. So I'm thankful for them and to the Creator for continuing to guide our work every single day. So without that, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm so blessed to be able to do. But my door's open. If there's any concerns, my door's open for anybody to come in and express that. And our doors at the Culture Committee are open in the Longhouse. The Culture Committee in the Longhouse is there for the community, for the people. And anybody's invited to join us in anything that we do. Join us, be a part of that, carry that responsibility with us in maintaining our language and our culture. And I invite you all to be a part of our 50th year anniversary and celebration. Lem Special.
Thank you, Sadie and Shirley and Jan. I think Carol, didn't you want to say something? Just a minute, Sadie.
After, I'm not bossing her around. Thank you guys for coming in today, and just want to challenge you, and I don't even know if this is proper, and I'm probably going to get yelled at like I usually do, but it's okay. I mean, I think different ideas come up with different things in our community. So, the Boys and Girls have 3 locations. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind, and I'm on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club, and I would facilitate this, but maybe possibly 1 week of a time frame to come in and maybe build like the ribbon skirts those young girls had on today. They have sewing machines and all of those kind of things, and they might even have the ability to buy some of the materials and stuff. But that's a way to reach out to, and I was there last night picking up my little guy, and you watch those little faces coming through, and there's a lot of brown ones, and even the ones that aren't. So anyway, I would do whatever I could to help facilitate that, and I think it would be a good outreach to maybe come out of our little. I mean, that's what this is kind of about kind of pulling ourselves away from our comfortable spots, and sometimes those locations you go to aren't comfortable, but I think once you get there, you'll see, wow, there are real positive things going on. And one's in Mission, one's in Polson, and one's in Ronan. So anyway, whatever, and if you can't, I understand totally, but want to encourage that.
I totally agree. So I know that travel education goes in there. I know that Patty and Elaine have been there. I too, was working as a knowledge keeper through tribal education, and that's what we would do is go out to the different places. But yeah, that's really a great idea. I think that's something that we could look at.
Yep, I love that idea as well.
Yeah.
One thing we forgot to mention is, we've solicited some of our, entities into donating to the 50th year anniversary celebration, just to offset some of the costs that we have. So the participants don't have to, bring their own materials in. So if you guys are able to help out with some of that, that would be great.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be asking for those donations from our entities to help and
Yeah, we
also
know,
bring
yeah,
them in.
we know that families don't have, the monies to come, but we do hope that people come and participate, come sit and bead, sew, learn how to bead or sew. And I failed to mention that prior to each of our, activities, we are putting a slideshow together, for a little history. Because people, when we had language camp last year, we just had a meeting about what people liked the most about it. And they really liked slideshows. They really liked learning and the visuals. So we plan on putting together a little slideshow to, educate our attendees. Because a lot of people, live here, they're tribal members. A lot of don't know what, they don't even know who they're related to. And we're hoping to maybe, bridge that and teach more. So, yeah.
I went to a culture camp, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and they built those concho belts.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, everybody has ribbon skirts and other things that they can wear those with, but those belts were the coolest things. I mean, the little kids were making their own, putting them together, and some of them were, all of them were so beautiful.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to finish mine because couldn't come back the next day. But I want to tell you, things like that just really make people feel really good that they can add something like that to their outfit, because
Right.
most people can't afford a
Right.
concho belt, especially when it gets to be that expensive. So you guys are doing awesome things, so thank you.
Yeah, and it's things like that we want to bring back, but it's just the funding. Leather costs a lot and then that would be great. We have, two people that teach, they're great teachers for, so, yeah. All right, Lemnam Chapasia.
Oh, quickly before you go,
Sure.
again, it's great to have the anniversary. I can't believe it's been 50 years. It's just amazing because I was in Ronan High School when everything got started. It was a big deal. It was a big deal for Ronan, and see Paula's here and her mom and dad were involved, and Mr. Raylett and my dad and others. But the one thing about the old-fashioned, the old-fashioned style show or whatever, old style fashion show.
Old style fashion show, yeah.
So as a person that's a hobbyist that really likes to do, beadwork and, I do just different stuff with bone stuff, and having a family that beads and sews, I'm always looking at photos to find that originality, to find those people that, what were they wearing? And so, if there is a way to enhance that or make that more available for our artisans that we have, our craftspersons to, because to find those photos, you really have to look. And so it really means a lot when I see someone and they're all, they're all have their dressed out and they look good and it's a great photo and I can see the detail of what they're wearing and the artwork that's represented, because it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, if you want to think of something, I think the appearance of our people, one of the most beautiful things that we have behind us, and we want to replicate that and keep that going. It's just, to me, it's just as important as the language. And so I really think that that's great that you're doing that. That's a great thing to do in the 50th anniversary. But if there's a way to push out more information as far as photos, old photos, to go through the Elrod collection at the University of Montana and just look at all of his photos, and there's just a lot of information out there. It would be great to make it more available to our people that do beadwork.
Right.
especially.
And if you have any, any of you on council, have any, or even in the audience, have old pictures from when the culture communities were both in Dixon, we're putting together a calendar. So that would be helpful also. We're going through pictures, so tons of pictures. Trying to get all which ones we want to pick, for this calendar. It's kind of tough because you want to put them all in there. But, we're trying to, of course, focus on the past and to now the present committee. So, we're just trying to go through that. But if you guys have old pictures that you want to share, please feel free to scan them, and if you're willing to let us use them, email them to us or shoot them out to Sadie.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Tom. Whatever we put together in this year, we definitely plan on sharing that publicly. So definitely be seeing things that we put together out there and available. The website I know Gecko's been a long time coming, but we're plugging into that quite a bit, and we'll be putting in quite a bit of content. Language, our language app is widely available. The new fonts that have come out also are downloadable from right there. So really, as Sam said, it'd be great to see more of our employees and our membership use those. We're happy to help anybody get that set up and be able to use those from their mobile devices or their computers.
Right.
But those things are all available from our website. Much.
Thank you, Sadie, Jan, Shirley. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the legislative update. Mr. Jordan Thompson.
All right, I'm gonna address the membership, if that works. Great. All right, well, Chasquex Pesia, Kasuk Nam, it's good to see everybody. My name is Jordan Thompson. I'm the acting executive officer and the deputy executive officer for the CSKT. So it's good to see everyone this morning. I saw Shirley on my way in and said it was a good week. I got to spend my time with the SQCC elders on Wednesday, Medicine Tree and the mission yesterday, and quarterly this morning. So, and my mom is here, so it just doesn't get better. So I'm gonna try to give you a thorough but brief update on some of what's going on with the state legislature and federal politics. I'd say I've been a student of power for about 20 years. I studied political science in college. I studied Indigenous Peoples Law and Policy in law school. And then I studied economic power with an MBA. And then really, I've been so privileged and blessed to learn from our people and our elders here, whether that's at the elders meetings down in Mission or up in Elmo, going to the Medicine Tree, going to some of the jump dances, just participating in our ceremonies. So if you guys all do know that kind of power, and that kind of power I think is the important stuff, which is why people have been trying to snub it out for so long, because it has such significance. But you got your federal government, and so they have power through the Supreme Court, Congress, the president, and then you have your state systems of power, which include the governor, our state Supreme Court, and the legislature. So this legislative session has been going on for 66 days. The entire session is 90 days, and so we're over 2/3 of the way through. Pretty much all of the statewide positions are Republican. So the governor's Republican, lieutenant governor's Republican, attorney general's Republican, everybody's Republican. As far as the makeup of the legislature, we have 58 Republicans and 42 Democrats. So that's an increase of 10 Democrats from the last session. And then in the Senate, we have 32 Republicans and 18 Democrats, a slight increase from last session. We are lucky to have an Indian caucus in Helena, and so that's about a dozen legislators that are Native American from most all of the reservations in Montana, and from the Salish and Kootenai tribes, we have 3 legislators. We have Senator Shane Morjo, Senator Jacinda Morjo, and Representative Shelley Fayant, and so they really make sure they look out for the best interests of Indian country in Helena. We've had a few big priorities in Helena, so I'm just going to mention some of those. The first was Stop the Hunting Bill. We call it the Hunting Bill for shorthand, but that was a bill brought by Representative Tracy Sharp. It was House Bill 216. It was an effort to open up the Flathead Indian Reservation to non-Indian hunting on fee lands. I always look over at Las Ostasso and I talk about hunting, and I think he'd be proud of us because we stopped that again. This is an effort that started started a long time ago. In the 80s, it was a fight on who could regulate our hunting and fishing rights. Of course, that's something we reserved in our 1855 treaty. And it's just been a contentious issue probably ever since. But we thought we resolved that with a fight in the 80s and in the early 90s when we entered into a settlement with the state of Montana saying we'll allow bird hunting and fishing through a state cooperative agreement, but no big game hunting. And so that has come under threat in the 2021 legislative session. Again, there was a ballot initiative last summer that we stopped. And then this last January, it was attempted again. And so it went into the House committee. So just quickly, when a bill gets introduced in the legislative session, it gets introduced in either the Senate side or the House side, and then it has to go through a committee hearing and then go to the full floor, and then it goes over to the other side of the chamber. So if it starts on the House, it has to go to the Senate. So it started in the House. There was a hearing in the House Natural Resources Committee. We had really good representation from council, from a bunch of folks from our Natural Resources Department, myself, from our legal team. And we were able to stop that in committee with a vote of 17-3. So that was a really good vote for us. And so that bill died, and really good news for us. So hopefully that one just goes away forever. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm not too hopeful, but keep your fingers crossed for that one. The next big issue is keeping Medicaid expansion. So Medicaid expansion was set to sunset this year, but just last week, the governor signed that into law, which should keep Medicaid expansion safe for about 75,000 Montanans. And so there's still a little bit of uncertainty with work requirements and at the federal level, but for right now, at the state level, Medicaid expansion is secured. So that was really good news. Another big priority was trying to find a solution, or at least support, for Public Law 280. I've been talking to you guys for a while at quarterlies and at your elders meetings about Public Law 280 and what's going on with that. And so, as we know, Public Law 280 was a termination era law that started in the 1950s that really delegated federal jurisdiction to states. 5 states were mandatory because the federal government was trying to wipe its hands of that responsibility. It was costing a lot of money. The federal government wanted to terminate tribes in the 50s, so it just said, hey, we're just going to give states this authority to do it instead of the feds. And then it opened up that ability for tribes to take on Public Law 280 in coordination with the states. And so in the 1960s, CSKT signed up for it because there were unsolved murders and our forests were getting ransacked, so we just needed support. A while after, the tribe said, man, we might want some of that jurisdiction back, maybe all of it, maybe some of it. And so in the 1990s, we had some fights at the state legislature. In 1991, it was a big issue. In 1993, we got our criminal misdemeanor jurisdiction back. It was a big fight, but we got our misdemeanor jurisdiction back, and so that's why our tribal courts, police officers, defenders, prosecutors, probation office, all work to prosecute misdemeanors on the reservation. Felonies, we still have concurrent jurisdiction as the tribe with the state and the federal government, but for the most part, the state has been handling those felonies since the 60s. And then, but over the past year, we've prosecuted over 150 felonies in our system itself. So we've really been working to ramp up our felony jurisdiction. Meanwhile, Lake County's been trying to ramp down its felonies. It's saying it's costing them too much. You guys probably remember in several legislative sessions prior, Lake County has gone to the legislature to ask for funding. The tribes have stayed out of that. We thought, that's an issue between the county and the state, and we'll just continue to stay in our own lane and work on building our capacity. So hopefully we can take most of the jurisdiction back on a reservation. I get a lot of questions. Do the tribes want to retrocede or not retrocede? And from my perspective, that's far less important than trying to take as much capacity as we can. So there's an ability, if we implement some more laws, it's going to take time, but we could potentially incarcerate tribal members from here or other federally recognized tribes for up to 3 years, and we could stack that up to 3 times. So there's an ability to incarcerate for up to 9 years. And so if we're able to do that, probably between 3 and 5 years if everything goes right. I hate to give timelines. But really then we're only looking at the federal government or the state to take on anything beyond that 9 years. So that means everything under 9 years, that's under our jurisdiction. And so that's what we're working towards. So we're working for federal funding, but right now there's an opportunity at the state to potentially try to get some funding to support that. And so Senator Greg Hertz has a bill that the Lieutenant Governor supported, the tribes supported, and Lake County supported. And so right now that has moved from the Senate side over to the House side, and so we'll see where that goes. There's a potential that if that bill passes, the tribes could get funding to support more of our jurisdiction as we try to take on more and more felonies. A few other issues that we're looking at in the state, I'm sure council might touch on some of these, but the Missing Murdered Indigenous Peoples legislation, we're always supporting that. Indigenous Peoples Day, that's one that's gone down in pretty big flames in other sessions, but Senator Morjo has introduced that again. It would give the state the option to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day, so that's a little bit more digestible to the people at the legislature, and so that passed the Senate, that's on the House side. I will mention CSKT celebrates Indigenous Peoples Day here, so we're covered here. And then extending the Montana Indian Child Welfare Act is another issue we follow. Tribal education and Indian language preservation are also things we track. Aquatic invasive species bills, we do a lot. I just wanted to give you some of the highlights. Moving to the federal side of things, here you go, Stephen. Here's your update. So hopefully you leave here with a little bit more peace of mind. And if not, always give me a call. But there's been a lot of activity going on at the federal level, as we know. There's been an unprecedented amount of executive orders coming out, and so we're tracking those. One thing I always like to say at the beginning of every time I get into federal or even state politics is I feel so lucky to be a part of CSKT because I haven't seen another tribe in the country that takes these issues as seriously or puts as many resources as we do into making sure our tribes, our tribal people, our tribal resources, our relationships are as safe as they can be. We have an incredible legal department headed up by Dan Decker, about a dozen attorneys, and so they are critical in that support. I head up sort of our lobbying shop that works in coordination with our communications operations. That's Rob McDonald's team out there. Shane Morjo does our public affairs. So between our public affairs, comms, lobbying, and legal department, that's called the policy team. We meet every week to talk about these issues, and then we advise council on whatever's coming up. So we talk about this stuff every week. I'm going to leave it to Greg to talk about some of our responses to the funding, but some of the other things that are out there that I just wanted to bring to your guys' attention. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. That has been under assault by the Trump administration. In January, I believe it was, he issued an order prohibiting DEI programs in the federal government. So we've been working with other organizations like the National Congress of American Indians, affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians, and others to advocate heavily to make sure that tribes are safe from any of those cuts. Tribes are political entities, not racial entities. We have inherent sovereignty. We have treaty rights. We're nations. And so there was a really important court case in the 70s, I believe, called Carcieri. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But in that case, it was a case of an employee working at the BIA, non-Indian, who said, hey, you're discriminating against me because you're giving the promotions to Indians. In a Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court decision, they said, nope, that's okay because Indians are a political class, not a racial class. And so because you're working for the benefit of tribes, that hiring preference is okay. And so a line of cases since that time has really stood up tribes as political entities, not racial ones. So when I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that should not mean tribes. Sometimes people try to conflate the two, but very different in the eyes of the law for now. We got to keep that Supreme Court strong to the best of our ability. Another one is Department of Education. You probably saw that executive order where that came out and Trump said he's cutting the Department of Education. So we've been working hard with our congressional delegation to make sure that funding keeps flowing to our tribal colleges, to Pell Grants, and to Bureau of Indian Education. So we'll keep you updated on that one. We're hearing that they're just trying to shift federal monies to the state to implement education programs. We're hearing a lot of things, but that's what we're hearing as the latest news on that. So we're staying apprised of that. And then for the fiscal year, like right now, there's a lot of noise, a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, but we're really focusing on making sure we're in good shape for the next fiscal year. That is going to start in October 1. Last month, we had Councilwoman Langford, Councilman Charlo visit Washington, D.C. to testify before the House Appropriations Committee. So Councilwoman Langford testified there about funding for the BIA, Indian Health Service, environmental protection, fire protection, and forestry management, to name a few. Really saying we need to protect our homelands, increase funding for initiatives like the Tawahe, which really adds resources to our tribal court system. So I'll probably leave it to Carol if she wants to mention anything more about that, but we're advocating hard for our tribal budgets to stay the same in the future. Additionally, we have put in 2 community funding requests with Senator Tim Sheehy and Congressman Zinke. One is for trying to get a recreation yard out at our tribal jail that will really support increasing our capacity for jurisdiction. The other one was for an aquatic invasive species, permanent aquatic invasive species down in River Valley. You guys have probably seen that temporary one. We want a permanent one, and so we put in some funding requests with our Senator Sheehy and Congressman Zinke. And the last thing I'll say is I think that when you're involved in politics or lobbying, so much has to do with relationships. And so we always do, as CSKT has done historically, is maintain as best relationship as we can. And so our congressional delegation, which is made up of Congressman Zinke, Senator Sheehy, Senator Daines, and then we do talk to Congressman Troy Downing. And so we go over there, have conversations. When they're in the neighborhood, they come talk with us. And so those lines of communication are open. And so we are always advocating and pressing on those guys to really do the right thing and make sure our nations are secure, our funding is secure, and that we get what we need to continue to be a tribe in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg to talk about what we're doing on the ground, making sure our tribal budget is as secure and safe as it can be. And then we'll take questions, unless you got one for me now. Social Security. Is that on your list, Greg? Right now, what I'm hearing, and my mom might actually be better on that than me. She keeps me informed. What we're hearing right now is that they're cutting a lot of the positions in the Social Security offices. And so the offices, it's going to be harder to get a hold of people, but the money itself, at least at the town halls that all the Republicans are having, are saying that it's not going to be affected. The money's going to be there. It's still going to flow. They're just trying to cut a lot of the kind of infrastructure that they don't think is necessary. But the funding, as far as I know, is still going to be flowing to Social Security recipients. We'll let you know if we hear anything different, but that's the latest I have. Stephen, never.
Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jordan, for that update. Stephen, for your question about Social Security, there are impacts right now. There are people with disabilities that aren't getting their payments anymore. So there are cuts that are happening directly to people in our landscape. I know of one in my family that is not getting his disability payment from Social Security. And so there are cuts happening. So one of the really important things, and we're kind of unique for us here in Montana, is that we have, as Jordan mentioned, they're all Republicans, both at going to DC and at the Capitol. A lot of states that we call blue states, like say Oregon or Washington or California, a lot of the folks there that are Democrats or lean more towards the Democratic Party for the relationships we've had in the past. The Republicans that are in control right now aren't even listening to them. But what we have is we have Republicans that are part of the power. So it's really important. And I want to applaud Robert for putting it in the Charcusta. In last edition of Charcusta, on the front page, on the bottom of the page, is the phone numbers of every senator, our senators, our representatives, the governor, all those folks. And what those people listen to is phone calls coming from you. Everyone in this room, if you have a concern about Social Security getting cut, like I do, like you do, you have a concern about Medicare getting cut, you have a concern about Medicaid getting cut, you need to get on the phone and you need to call those two senators for Montana, those two House of Representatives from Montana, and let them know that. Because they are paying attention to that. They might not necessarily pay attention to something that a lobbyist for the CSKT says, but they're paying attention to that ground level noise coming up. So when you look at that Charcusta newspaper, if you're not, like before, I think Robert put like a website thing where you could get information and do electronic stuff. But either way, grab that information, take the time to do that phone call. That is so critical at this point in time. It's so critical because they are already on the point where they did their continuing resolution where they did cuts. They're starting to frame up their next strategy. They're continuing to do more cuts. And it's really important that they hear that noise. They have to hear that noise from us. We cannot sit back and say, we're scared they're going to do something to us. Like they threaten universities, don't have a protest on your university, we're going to cut your federal funding. I can tell you what, I have a word for that. But we cannot stand down. If we stand down on these issues, it's a repeat. I think, Stephen, you talked about it. These two guys, the current guy sitting in the head of the DC and then the guy who's coming in running Dodge, they are very sympathetic to the history of Germany and the Nazi Party. What you see going on right now is a level of fascism that's going on and creeping over and taking over our country. So if we need to stand up and make our noise as much as possible because before you know it, we'll be living in a completely fascist state. And you don't want that. Nobody wants that. Maybe they want that, but I certainly don't want to live in a country like that. So when you say, I see some people that are already moving to Canada because they can't take it anymore, but we can't do that kind of thing. We need to make our voices known. If there's a town hall meeting, we need to attend. We need to let people know we're concerned about our rights, about the money we paid in for Social Security. We're concerned about our other citizen. We're concerned about that person living on the street. We're concerned about humanity because we are woke. We are woke. We are the definition of woke. Our people are. We've always shared everything. And so we've always taken care of our people. So we really need to stand up. And your voice, it's not just me calling them all the time. It really makes a difference that you, especially as a tribal elder, also call. And take the time to make that call. Call every day if you can. Because it's that noise and that continual noise that's going to make a difference to our representatives. Why would they cut Medicaid when our state folks at Helena have approved expanded Medicaid? And that's a Republican-controlled state house. And the Republican governor signed that. We cannot allow our two senators, our two representatives, to cut Medicaid on the federal level when all of Montana endorses expanded Medicaid. They need to know that. We need to make sure that they have that information. So I'm sorry, I get animated when I talk about it. It's just so ridiculous the direction we're going. And their whole playbook was out there with their Project 2025. As I started mentioning last summer during the election process, we know what's coming ahead of us. We've got to be able to stop it or shift them to a different path. And they're not going to do that unless we make noise. People talk, people from the ground up, every person. Maybe you didn't vote, but you can vote now by calling your senator's office and your representative office. And that's what you need to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Agree with you 100%.
It'll get here. Greg, please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of council. Members here in the audience today and those participating via the recording broadcast, good morning. My remarks today are an update on the financial condition of the tribes, particularly in the wake of the uncertainty created by the Office of Management and Budget and the reported contraction of grant funding and the impacts to the tribes itself. On January 28th of 2025, the OMB sent word of the federal halt on grant funding, and the initial response was to determine what impact that would be felt here on the tribal budget itself. Executive leadership met immediately to make recommendations to council for a 90-day freeze addressing 5 areas: the hiring freeze, the travel freeze, the compensation adjustment freeze, a freeze on capital expenditures, and enhanced review on all new contracts. In the afternoon, when bringing these ideas forward, a district court created an injunction, and the following day, the OMB rescinded their memo, but the damage was already done, and we began to receive letters here at the tribal complex halting certain grants. The freeze remains in effect with certain specific exemptions that include tribal credit, housing, and MVP, programs with funding that is already on deposit with the tribes, as well as funding that has been secured in writing. These exempted areas were able to move forward with business as usual. The federal government avoided a shutdown by passing a continuing resolution on March 14th, funding all tribal programs through 9/30 at fiscal 24 levels without any immediate harm in the current fiscal year. Executive leadership met last week to formulate recommendations and feedback to present to council on what's on the horizon. We are in discussion and planning phase for the fiscal 26 budget plans for the CSKT organization. All programs have been asked to verify their revenue estimates for the upcoming year, and programs have been asked to verify what programs may still face a reduction in funding. The budget development process will raise these items to council for your deliberation and prioritization. Your deliberation will result in the allocation of those tribal resources to accomplish the tribal priorities. The budget team has asked programs for their list of accomplishments for 2024 and their work plans for 2026. And these work plans, we're asking for them to include identifying activities that are tied to the 8 tribal guiding resolutions. The budget for 2026 is on schedule to be presented for approval in the week of August 11th. There will be several meetings between now and then, bringing forward all of the accumulated information that the budget office gets from the field for your review and deliberation. My office will continue to be focused on delivering sound financial recommendations to council, to manage resources according to council's directive, and ensuring that all fiduciary expectations are being met. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Jordan. Next on the agenda is Patricia Hibler to give us a little update on Red Shield 8.
Good morning, council and tribal members. I've got a bit of a PowerPoint I'm going to go through this morning because I have a little bit of show and tell that I think will help individuals understand what's happening with Red Shield 8 Nations. So I'm going to talk about a tribal regional treatment center and the planning that's happening for it within Montana. So I think it's important to start with how all of this began. So discussions began long before my involvement in this, but discussions began 10 years ago with tribal leaders and health directors, and a lot of conversation has gone on over that time about the need for an in-state native, culturally relevant residential treatment center. So we all know what's been happening not only on our reservation, but other reservations across Montana regarding substance use. The American Indian health leaders took the lead with support from tribal councils to really kind of formulate conversations about development of a regional healing center. All tribes began by submitting a resolution with commitment to participate in the planning process, and CSKT was the very first tribe to do that. I commend council at the time. CSKT is really a leader in helping move Red Shield 8 Nations forward. One of the council members who was attending those meetings at that time was Councilwoman Carol Langford, and was very verbal with the other tribal members about the importance for the tribes to come together and to create a regional healing center in Montana. And that's really where all of this spearheaded and took off. So I'm happy to give you an update about where we're at today. After the board, the individuals that were coming to the American Indian Health Leaders meetings, which were primarily your tribal health directors, and then also council members from the different 8 tribes within Montana, and having this discussion, they looked at different models of development and of leadership and of governance. It was determined that it was best for this organization to develop as a nonprofit 501c3 rather than embedding it under one tribal operations. So in that development of that nonprofit as a 501c3, it was voted on and determined by the individuals that they would call it Red Shield 8 Nations. So I'm going to give you an update on Red Shield 8 Nations today. So Red Shield 8 Nations was actually founded in 2024 and incorporated as a 501c3. CSKT signed the resolution in support of Red Shield 8 Nations on February 6, 2024, and designated their board members. Councilwoman Jennifer Finley serves as the board member for CSKT for Red Shield 8 Nations, and we are really happy to have her there leading the need for CSKT and really helping to continue rallying all of the 8 tribes together and a representative from one of the urban centers who operate as the 9-member board of directors for Red Shield 8 Nations. That's a really important role. This is probably one of the few efforts of all of the tribes in Montana coming together, leading forward on the same goal and outcome because of the need that we see across Montana. So it's important to keep that board together, let everybody speak what they need to speak about, and then make the best decision to move Red Shield 8 Nations forward. And Chairwoman Finley helps us do that, so thank you. The goal for Red Shield 8 Nations right now is to develop a 32-bed regional treatment center in Great Falls on land donated by the Little Shell tribe. That donation is extremely important to this nonprofit organization. Little Shell has donated 15 acres of land to this project. They've said we can have more land should we need it, but it's fee land, so it allows us to add that to the nonprofit's ownership and to be able to use that land as capital if needed for development. We're developing the center, and when I say we, I mean the board, all of the tribes in Montana and the urban centers. We're looking to provide ASAM level 3.5 and 3.7 residential care for adult American Indian Montanas with substance use disorder. All that means is those are codes for licensure. It means we're going to have a detox center and we're going to do residential treatment in that center in Montana a native-run treatment center with all native healing aspects as part of the methodologies. Here's our time frame as we move forward. You can see a lot of this work started in 2022, and we hope to be able to open with services in late Q4 of 2027. So what's happened to date? Red Shield 8 Nations hired consultants that came in and led us through a series of processes that began with strengths, needs, and feasibility study. That was a year-long focus on looking at the data. What does the data say for all the 8 tribes in the urban centers in Montana? Tribal health and other departments within CSKT provided a lot of great data. Along with a group of individuals from all tribes, which were called our elders culture keepers. So they came in and worked with the consultants to help build the methodology for this particular treatment center, and really link it back to the tribes in Montana that we all come from. And that was really important. I want to take a moment and thank Francis Auld for participating in that. And then PJ, looks like he's gone, but he was here, also participated in some of that, and really helped to build that particular framework. That was an important piece in the process with the consultants. We've also built the governance, ownership, and management model. The service and staffing model has been completed. An operations and business plan is complete, and our facility schematic design is complete. Our next steps are to begin to build the facility financing plan. We hope to have that done around May of this year. And it will include our current donations, which are a little over $1 million, with $850,000 coming from the Little Shell tribe. So the Little Shell tribe is really dedicated to this project, not only donating land, but also donating $850,000 from their opioid response fund dollars from the settlement. We've also submitted a little over $11 million in grant submissions, which we ask you to please put good thoughts out there for those to be funded, because that will really be a huge step in starting in the construction. And we'll continue to put together that financing plan so that we can begin construction, along with leveraging the land for bank loans should we need to. The total estimated cost to build this facility is almost $23 million. And again, this expected open date is Q4 of 2027. A little bit of information about what was in the strengths and needs assessment, that feasibility study. It really showed that over 200 American Indians across Montana are in need of detox services or medically managed withdrawal services, which is our inpatient residential treatment. And more than 400 need the high-intensity residential services, which is what this particular facility is intended to provide. The rest of the information there, I think we all know. We know that the high need for a center like this is important, and very important for CSKT, because right now the majority of our individuals that we're sending to treatment, we're sending out of state. We can't get them into the state centers, and the state treatment centers do not have the outcomes that we want for our tribal members. Many of the individuals that currently go to the state-funded centers end up relapsing very quickly, and many of them are in treatment 4 and 5 times. We do see a higher level of success with our individuals that are going to Spokane, and that's why Tribal Health is dedicated to send them to that particular treatment center. And those are some of the models that we are looking at. We're planning a site visit to that particular center within the next couple of months, and certainly hope that some of the council members might be interested in attending with us. Culture and language, of course, is key to the recovery. We all know the research behind all of that, and it's important to make that part of the treatment methodology as it creates a strong, sober community when individuals move home. The data really demonstrated that a 32-bed adult facility is where Red Shield 8 Nations should begin. I will say there's been conversations about what comes next once they're successful with this. What about the youth, etc.? Those are in further phases down the line. Should needs assessment show that those would be facilities that could also be created and financially supported. This is just a screen that shows the regional health centers' systems of values, focusing on celebrating sobriety, language and culture, holistic care, respect for diversity, very much family focused. We know we as American Indians are family centered people, and with that extended family that comes with us and supports us. We want to make sure we're connecting to culture and community across those 8 reservations in Montana. It's equitable across all of the different tribes and is trauma and resiliency informed. Another piece of the methodology that's really important as this center gets developed is that care coordination team. I think you as council members and our community members deal with it all the time. When somebody's ready to come back from residential treatment, that coordination of care and that kind of soft handoff to make sure they get back, they're in a safe place, doesn't exist. It doesn't exist here, and it doesn't exist within the other 8 tribes. So that's really a focus within the development of this treatment center that is planned to be developed as we move forward. Couple of other slides. Treatment services are embedded in sweat lodge ceremonies, pipe ceremonies, purification ceremonies, talking circles, drum circles, and equine horse therapy. So those are really the treatments that have come from and directed from our elders, cultural experts. And those will be added to over time as they need to be. We've also got the conventional treatment that has to be in place, what allows us to bill appropriately for all of this with an IHS building and Medicaid building. And then also alternative therapies of yoga, meditation, and acupuncture are part of the methodology plan. Here's just a screen that shows you how we get to the $23 million for the build. And that is some pricing that has come directly from our architectural team. We used an architectural team called 7 Directions out of Spokane. The owner of that is a Crow tribal member who really understands what we're trying to build here, what we're trying to do, and the emphasis of culture to be embedded throughout the space itself. The next screen is a 5-year glance of revenue and expenses. So you'll see where we're at in 2025 as we begin with some early construction in 2026 and then service launch in 27/7 and then full delivery in 2028 and 29 and moving forward. Next, I'm just going to move into some pictures of the site. This is what it looks like. 15 acres, very flat. I think you all know what Great Falls looks like outside of Great Falls. You'll see the space in red is fee land that the Little Shell tribe has purchased. And what's in yellow is the 15 acres that they are donating to Red Shield 8 Nations. Just to the right, for those of you who are familiar with Great Falls and the Little Shell tribe, just to the right is where the Little Shell tribe across the road on the right has their community center that they use for lots of activities, and up on the hill there is where they are having their powwow now. So if you know where that is, that gives you kind of an indication off of I-15 where the property is located. It is a total of 3 parcels, and that's the entire space, the 295.46 acres, of which Red Shield Nations is using 18. Just a little bit of information about the location. It's suburban, it's a large site, was rolling farmland that they had purchased. There's views of the distant mountains, prairies, and towns. It's a great place where we can add all of the cultural elements for the residential treatment center, and it is optimal for equine therapy. Here's some of the square footages for the programs. You'll see they're planning for administrative offices, medical offices, dining services, recreation and recovery support, relative treatment. So in our plans, when you see the word relative, that's the word that we're using for patient. We're not using patient, we're not using clients. They are our relatives. Those individuals that will come to this space for cultural treatment. And then of course the relative residence where they will be staying for the treatment. Child and daycare center and short-term residence, those are in phase 2. The child and daycare center is a space where when families come to visit those individuals that are in treatment, they have a place for children to go. And then the short-term residences are really for families that come, that they have a place to stay when they come to visit their relative that's in treatment, and then also space for staff to stay on site. Here's a picture of the master site plan. You'll see the road in with a welcoming arbor, solar-covered parking, the healing center itself. It has a medicine wheel garden, and then full gardening for the relatives that are staying there. A men's sweat, a women's sweat, teepee building sites, playground area. Phase 2 with the short-term residences, basketball courts, and equine therapy. And over at the right is just an open playfield. Here's a southern view of that facility. And then here's the main entrance. So we've got a long ways to go to get to where we want to be in 2027. I will say that all of this work has been done with outside consultants and within the board of directors and with all of the tribes in Montana really in support and moving the effort forward. We are now at the point with Red Shield 8 Nations that we have the donations. We'll be looking at hiring staff who can begin to move these efforts forward, because we're going to have to build a very strong level of infrastructure to support the business part of Red Shield 8 Nations and get the operations in place, and then continue with the contracts for the architect and then eventual construction, along with the fund development plan and putting it into operation to raise funding to make this a reality. So that in a very quick nutshell is where we're at. I'd like to see if Councilwoman Langford and Finley, if you have anything you'd like to add.
The only thing I want to say is I'm really grateful for this and to be a part of it. And, you know, I think every tribe in Montana owes a huge debt of gratitude to Little Show for really stepping up and donating this piece of land and donating nearly $1 million. And, you know, and I really respect and admire Chairman Gray's leadership because the reason he did it, he said, is because it's the right thing to do. And we needed this yesterday. And he said, I don't care what tribe does it, I don't care where it is, but we need it as soon as possible. And if we're in the position to step up and donate this land and make it happen faster, then we're going to do it. And I think we all have relatives who didn't become who they were supposed to be because of addiction. And, you know, all of our lives have been touched by it. So I'm really grateful for that tribe for stepping up. And I'm really glad that this is going to happen in Montana. It's long overdue and much needed. And thank you, Patty Hibbler, for your amazing work on this, for rallying everybody together, for moving this forward. Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Shirley.
My thoughts are all the tribes of Montana are not the same. Their cultures are different, especially ours. Our culture is from the people of the West. We share our cultures and our language with many of the tribes there. To mix with the Plains tribes, who are very different. They speak more differently. They have their cultures are way different than ours. So I object to this. I want to ask the council to think about this even deeper concerning our language and our cultures, our ways. This is just to me and some other people that it's not right to mix our cultures. We're losing our identity that way. We will no longer be in the Salish people. We'll be whatever. So I want you all to think about that. We should be mixing with the Spokanes, the Kalispels, the Coeur d'Alenes, the Okanagans. Their healing ways are different. I know that because I know someone who goes with, say for instance, the correctional facility. They're learning their songs, their ways. Those people from the east side. Is that what you guys really approve of? Does that mean anything to you? I'm sorry, I'm being really honest. I'm being really, really for my culture and my people. The reason why a lot of these people that go to places like that for treatment, they come back and they go right back into it. Years ago, we had detox. A lot of people I know graduated from there and are still sober. So please think about it. Think about your people, your tribes, your culture. That's all I could say about it, but I really want you to think about it. I did say something at one of the meetings at the tribal health. I told Joseph in front of everybody, we need our own treatment center for us, not mixed with everybody else. I know they want treatment too, but we should have our own mixed with the Western people. Lamblams, for your time and listening to me. I hope you take it to heart and think about it really hard.
Carol.
Yeah. This is kind of difficult.
I'd like to say something too on
This is
follow
kind
up
of
with
difficult.
Shirley.
He called on me. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. You know, I'm still a licensed addiction counselor. I probably worked for 35 plus years actually doing the service. I've worked in detox. I worked in inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, intensive outpatient treatment. So I've worked pretty much across the board in my life as a provider in that field. You know, I really believe that recovery begins at home. Follow up with what Shirley's saying. You know, I look to my advisors, my elders at the time when I got into recovery. You know, I'm sober now for, I don't know, 44 plus years. And it's because of my people, our ways, our values, those elders that were present for me to help me in my journey in life. And it was up to me to either take that up, to follow along with what they tried to share with me or not. And then when I tried to do equine therapy here, we had grants for that. But at the time, we had a department that wasn't supportive of it. My spouse and I were both equine therapy, able to do that. And then we had a boss for a short term named Teresa Wall McDonald that wanted us seeing the positive effects of that. You know, but that didn't happen because she was only with us for a short time. And things change. It's not a blame thing. Things change. But I've always said, we're tied to the people in the West, the Kalispel, you know, the Okanagan, you know. Those are our people, you know, the Spokanes, the Sinjumene, you know, the Stitzowe, the Coeur d'Alenes. They have a similar culture as ours. So I don't know where this PRT is going to go, but I'm in agreement with Shirley that, you know, I hope our leadership really assesses how they want to move forward. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carol.
No. I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything here, you know. Council's had this deliberation and I know some of the members disagreed with the final decision where it's going in, Great Falls. But there was a comment made and I was in favor of having it here, right? Patricia, at one point I was definitely in favor of having it here. Until one council member said, you know, if you build it here and people walk away from treatment, this is a good place to live. Most likely they're going to stay here. Then we have a community of people from the East moving here. Right now, I can say tribal health is doing so much more than it ever has in a long time. I see more people going to treatment. It's almost immediate. They go to Royal Life or wherever they're going. I mean, I just made a call just the other day and I get calls about people saying, I want to go to California. I want to go to Royal Life. I just want to go to treatment and I want to go now. and I see progress. It's taken our department a long time to evolve. And now we've got some opportunities with the hotel, with mental health, kind of building their place, because now we have a tribal member who is a doctor of psychology that can step in and not only see the big picture, but know the people and where they come from. So, you know, I'm fine if you want everybody from Billings, Great Falls to come in here and go to treatment, great. If they want to go home after they're done, most likely they're sober and they want to stay here because there's services here. You can go to the dentist any day of the week, and our tribal members are going to end up losing out. That's why I thought our best bet is to build a treatment center, but also build it not right here in our backyard, because we do have so much to offer to our people. And that, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. My husband's from Fort Belknap. You know, he probably slapped me around a little bit for, you know, saying, no, you should have it here. But that's that's the main reason why I thought, man, we could really have an influx of people that, and we already have some people that have moved here, and they're already, you know, taxing our system. But I just wanted to say that I think tribal health is doing a lot more. And if somebody does need to go to treatment, they can go to treatment. I just say, you know, let's work with Miss Hibbler here, who is doing a fantastic, awesome job, and almost at a fault that her position here at CSKT takes a back seat at times, but it's because she recognizes the importance of what our people need. I mean, she's getting these little tiny homes put in here so people have a place to stay when they get out of treatment. So they have a place to stay. That's been the biggest issue that I see now. They have no place to go, no place. They can't go back to family because most of the time families are using. I mean, we all know the story. And so I just think, please give us a little time. But if there's still that objection, you know, I'm listening. I'm willing to listen, but to build our own facility, we might as well close down every other department because it's going to cost a lot of money to build our own facility. And that's why we chose to work with all the tribes. And, you know, that's where I'm at, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. I think as one of the next steps, and I had a conversation with Sadie, I'd like the opportunity to bring the elders committees, both committees, the methodology and the treatment plan to really begin to provide input. So I will say that those things are still fluid as Red Shield 8 Nations continues to build the infrastructure for this organization. And I also want to thank Council for allowing me the time to work on this project. Although it's really a small amount of my time, I facilitate a meeting about an hour and a half once a month, and advise the consultants. It's really a passion of mine. I was raised by a woman, Sherry Barber Sadler, who was a longtime mental health therapist for the tribe, and many people in this room know her and remember her. And she was one of the first therapists who began involving language and culture in her work, even to the point that she moved all of her therapy groups out to Agnes Vanderberg's camp. And that's where they all happened. And the success rate with those individuals were tremendous, which if there was any research done on it at that time, it just again affirms that if we bring language and culture into what we do, the differences that it makes in all areas of our government. So I appreciate the opportunity to work on the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Well, that brings us to the council updates section of our agenda. And Carol, can we start with you?
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity and the drum group and for opening up the meeting and the prayers by Stephen. This, I think, most of my stuff has been touched on by Jordan Thompson when he mentioned our trip to DC, and it was a very nice trip. And sometimes people look at it like a waste of money, but you know, I've got an opportunity to testify a number of times in DC, and it's always a couple of years later that you finally see what's produced out of the testimony, like let's say the firefighters' retention pay. Finally, it did come down, and firefighters are now being treated like the Forest Service and other agencies, and receiving retention pay, which they deserve because they're no different than any other agency. And the training that they go through, they're still trained and all of that. So we finally see some progress in the testifying, and it's really nice to be a part of that. And then to travel with our lobbyists and Martin, they set up these meetings. It's kind of a marathon meeting type thing. You go to from one place to the other, and I got a chance to sit in Mr. Sheehy's office and visit with him. He seemed to be a real down to earth guy. But I really appreciate Tom McDonald and what he had to say about it, because we need to work with Republicans, whether you like it or not. You have to, because right now I think it's to our advantage to have them on our side, because if things do go under, we definitely have somebody that can call, and we try to build a good relationship. I appreciate Jordan's speaking about, having those relationships and things like that. So it's just really critically important. And I always remind people, the water compact was signed by Donald Trump. Whether we like it or not, I think we're very fortunate because, I always heard Dan Decker and old Dan Decker say, this is going to take forever to get through. And I don't know, we've got some really good people working for us. So the water compact, I think, sailed through pretty quickly. When they were talking a 10, 20-year time frame, what did it take us? 5, and everything kind of like was magic. I don't know, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, it just seemed like it went through. And so I guess we're very fortunate of where we are. We continue to work on the skate parks and those kind of things. Ronan, Pablo, seeing about 25 kids, all the way from little tiny to great big kids over there at the skate park the other day when it was nice out. So I know it's getting some use, and I hope Arlie is still, and I know Ronan's a little bit slow, but once we get our playground in, which the playground is coming probably within starting the next couple of weeks, maybe, they're gonna start delivering some of the items for the playground next to the skate park, and it's gonna have a rubber bottom and all these fantastic little features for the kids and the features are gonna represent, the reservation, water, those canoes, Indian native stuff. So it's gonna be really cool. And then we're getting a pickleball court too. And so there's things like that we just continue to work on. But I think my biggest thing I've worked on the last 3 months is helping people get to treatment. I just wrote a letter for an individual. I won't mention a name, but to seek out drug court. It's those kind of things that we, try to help our people with to access some of this stuff. And sometimes they say, well, we can't get a call back. And I say, you got to keep calling every day, every hour if you have to. Mr. Chairman, I think that's about it, but I wanted to congratulate Miss Wendy Thompson. Are you in the room?
Had the opportunity to go to language conference, and it's really good to see our people there. They're happy and they're proud to be Indian. It just feels it's a good place to be with our people. I've secured funding for a monthly community meal outside of the tribe, so I'm excited to be able to do a community meal every month for our community. Really grateful to the local donor that's doing that for us. We had a bill pass, an MMIP bill pass, where the state, how do you say that? We can now get funding there. So they can raise money to help people out. Before there was just no money there. And so we're excited that we can start to raise money to help people through the MMIP task force. But on a local level here, it'll be the third annual MMIP 5K in coordination with Providence St. Joe's, and the funds raised through that event every year really supports local here at home, and we assisted 5 families this year with that fund. So we're in the planning phases of that, but it'll be May 10th, 9 o'clock at SKC. I welcome you guys to join us over there. It was a push, but we have a homelessness coordinator now. I think that's a success because that's been a goal, I guess, to help our people get some stability, and I'm hoping our homelessness coordinator can help us reach that goal for our people. There's also another bill, I think it's Mr. Running Wolf. They're trying to get a criminal investigator on the state MMIP task force so they can look into some of the cases on, throughout all of the reservations that are, that they're just not taking care of our people. And I'm hoping an investigator there will help that out. Our groundbreaking for our skate park is Monday at 11 o'clock. So really excited for that. It's got some handicapped accessibility for some of our kids, and really just happy that our community is coming together and they're working hard, and we're celebrating many successes with people coming back from treatment. And community, it's one person at a time, and we got to keep believing in them. And some days it's hard to see them struggle and be hungry and hurting, but I'll take the small victories every day when we see them come home healthy. So I think that's my update for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Ding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're kind of fighting my sleep here. Jimmy and I got back kind of late last night from California. We came in, I think we got home around 12:30 last night, and kind of been a short night. But we attended a National Indian Gaming Association meeting down there this past week. And very big conference, a real big conference this year. And a lot of issues were talked about, especially with tariffs and whatnot for the tribes that they're going to have to be dealing with in funding and whatnot, as they're worried about. A lot of discussion was held on that, and board members were all really involved in it, and then we had speakers that came in and also talked about the different issues that are coming up. And one of them was Tom will really like this, is that we're working on a taxation issue with the payouts that the patrons or people that win $1,200, they got to pay taxes on. They're planning on raising that up to 5,000. So Tommy, when the smaller ones would be, you won't have to pay taxes on that anymore. But anyway, they're working on that, and the way it sounds is they're not gonna have any problem with it. The IRS already has something that they have there that where they can change that right away. So they're going to be working on that and get that hopefully changed ASAP. So people won't have to be paying those big taxes or taxes on the money that they win now. But then we also had big meetings, with the caucuses with the other tribes we're in the Northwest region, and we had a meeting with Wyoming and Fort Belknap and Crow and tribes up there, and it was a meeting that where we had elections too, and then Francine Dupuy got elected to the secretary position, and the president came from Wyoming. They had more members there than we did, so we got outvoted on a couple of positions there. So it happens all the time. We're always one member short, so from getting one of our people in there to the bigger offices. But it was pretty well, like I say, it was really well attended down there, and lots of people from all over the U.S. Attends that big conference down there. So it was something to be a part of, just to hear and what all this was going to take place, because these people are really involved with national issues that are going on with gaming. But besides that, the only other place that I went was down in Helena. We went down and met with the Lieutenant Governor down there. The council went down and met with her, talked about Public Law 280, a little bit about gaming again with the Class 3 gaming that was brought up a little bit. And that's one thing about down there this time, down in California. Class 3 gaming down there was not really supported by the tribes. They're getting to find out that the taxes that they got to pay to the state could belong to them, and they wouldn't have to pay any taxes to the state. So a lot of them are going to come back, so like to Class 2 gaming, and not have to pay these taxes to the state. So, and we're talking about doing that here too, going to Class 3 gaming. But after what they heard down there, I think they're going to probably come in and talk to council about it, and possibly not go that way. So, like I say, there was a lot of issues that were brought up down there, and really informative meeting this time. 3 days. We had to be down there Sunday night. We had our first meeting down there Sunday night, and we had a meeting Sunday. Monday they had a golf tournament and whatnot. I don't play golf, but they had the golf tournament. And Tuesday, Wednesday, and yesterday morning we still had meetings, all that during that time. So it was quite like I say, it was really a productive meeting with a lot of the tribes down there, and I enjoyed it. That was probably about the best conference that I've attended to since I've been on gaming, and I've been on there now for almost 10 years. So it was like I say, really informative, and I really enjoyed it. But like I say, I want to thank the drum group, Eagle Pass Drum, for the flag song that they did. Stephen for the prayer that he did this morning, Sam for his information, for the issue that he brought up this morning. It's good to hear that from him. Sam, Buffalo over there, thank you for what you had to say, and also Shirley, and thank you for coming and being with us today. It's always good to see you here. So thank you.
Thank you, Bing. Lynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, distinguished membership. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be with us this morning. It really means a lot to us when you guys come here. And I also want to just mention, I think it's really important that if you are in Pablo on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I really want to encourage you to stop in. Stop in and come and sit in the audience, ask questions, challenge us, make us accountable, make us do our jobs. You see something wrong, speak up, tell us because we need to know. And, but I think it's really important that we continue to try to make stronger relationships with our membership. But I also want to note that there's one notable task that this council's been working on, and that is the reorganization of our tribe. Many of us on council here have the similar sentiment that the organization that we're doing now is not working. It's not providing the best services that we can to the membership. We can do better. And we all agreed to that, and we all agreed to move in a direction to start looking at different ways on how we can get those services out to the membership. It's really important because these past 2 years, it's really been a struggle watching the whole organization. I don't want to say fail, but we're just not working together like we can, like we should be, and making sure that we're getting the services out to you. Not only that, it's treating our members with respect. When they come up here to Pablo or any tribal organization, that they all get treated with the respect they deserve, and not to be mistreated in any way. Because we get a lot of complaints of that, and that's not right. It's not right. We need to get that concept back to the employees and to this council that we work for the members, and we can't forget that in any aspect of our job. But I just think that's really important to continue to say, to make sure that everybody hears that, because it's otherwise, yeah, it's just a tough job right now. But we're trying. We're trying. We stumble and we fall. We make mistakes, and it's important that we own it and we find solutions. So. But anyway, once again, I want to just thank you all for taking the time. It's good to see you all. You guys all had good words today. Strong words, powerful words. And that's what we need to hear. So thank you all.
Thank you, Lynn. James?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everyone. Lemlam Usus Kukani. I have other things to say, but it's interesting to listen to Bing's report on those tribes in California, because when I was a chairman, we were fighting with Governor Schweitzer over Class 3 gaming, and we were fighting with NIGC and John McCain over Class 2 gaming at that time. Those tribes were laughing at us and ridiculing us for suing the NIGC. Why are you suing our good friend at the National Indian Gaming Commission? I said, because he's trying to take out our ability to do what we want to do to protect our tribes. And they laughed at us. They ridiculed us for suing the federal government. And a lot of these tribes that Bing's talking about, now they're talking about going Class 2. You know who saved their bacon to do that? Us and 2 other tribes. There were 3 tribes that fought, and all of them tribes, when we go to those things, why are you suing Phil Hogan of the NIGC? Because he's not right. He's not right on this issue, because we're fighting the state of Montana over Class 3 gaming, and our good friend Governor Schweitzer is not working with us. And I'm so proud of the fact that we didn't really win that case either, but it was a delay tactic, and we won what we wanted to. And now we've got Class 2 gaming, and it's proven successful. Now these other tribes are saying, oh gosh, I want to tell those tribes, where were you 20 years ago? When we were fighting, just three of us tribes fought against the federal government. Where were you guys? They were absent and they were making fun of us. So now it's funny to see history come back around. If I see any of them, I'm going to tell you, where the hell were you 20 years ago when we were one of three tribes fighting this issue? You guys are laughing at us. Now you're trying to do what we're doing. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down that path. That's not what I meant to say. But anyway, I can just remember those tribal leaders looking at me and, why are you? I'm like, because they're trying to take away our sovereignty. And I can't rely on you to protect it. I have to rely on ourselves. So anyway, that's not what I meant to say. I want to thank the council for, we were hearing that tribal members across the country were being swooped up by ICE. Down in New Mexico and down there and around here, we had that nurse down here, native nurse down in Missoula. So we took action to say any tribal member that needs an ID, you get it for free. You don't have to pay for it. So that you have that in hand when ICE is trying to swoop you up, like Steven said, where are they going to send them to? This is their homeland. You can't send them to Mexico or Mars or someplace. And I seriously think we need to take action. We oppose ICE activity on this reservation. You have no business being here. I don't care if you're federal ICE or whatever you are. You have no business swooping people up on our reservation. I oppose that. Trump is attacking our allies. He's attacking Canada. Our people are in Canada. Our Okanagan cousins, our Kootenai cousins and such, are there in Canada. My Steele name comes from Canada. You go to Cranbrook, there's Fort Steele. That's part of my family's heritage. My Morgeau family, they come from Canada. They came from France, Quebec, and across and down here. My great-great-grandpa was a World War I veteran for the Royal Canadian Army. My great-grandpa was born in Alberta, Canada. My Morgeau cousins were born up in Canada, a lot of them. And this bozo has the nerve to attack our allies. I don't know what, I just have no other thing to say there. I think we need to put the Pend de Kalispel name on our flag, and I've believed that for years. I'm so proud of the 50 years of Tweagle. I'm so proud of our 50 years of our culture committee. Those are such awesome, look at what years those were. Those are in the 70s, and our country was in turmoil and these things were being created. That's such an awesome milestone. We changed the name of Dixon because we all know Joseph Dixon was not a friend of our tribes. And I thank Councilman Matt for leading that effort. I want to thank our Vice Chairman, Tom McDonald. He just had the short straw, I think. He went up to the license thing and had to renew his plates, and they were saying, well, your tribal ID isn't good enough. You need an extra piece of paper. So he got a little bit upset with them and called the manager, and he said he put his foot in certain places, but we don't want to know where that was. But anyway, he tussled with them. And so thank you, Tom, on behalf of all of us, he kind of led that charge to say, hey, it's not right that you're not accepting the tribal ID for licensing. So I thank Tom for doing that, because I probably wouldn't have been as cool as he was. And and thank you, Sam, for your words on the CPS issues. Those are important, and I know we've been talking about them and working on them, and I agree with you. They have lost some good folks that shouldn't have been gone. And the biggest thing you can do to help us, and Jordan Thompson gave a good report on everything that we're trying to do, but here's something you can do. Call Danes' office. Call them up and tell them what you're telling us about Social Security, about Medicaid, about our rights as tribes, and Sheehy's office and Zinke's office. I've been calling them at least once a week, and I've been emailing them as best I can once a week, you know, and but the other thing is we are blessed people. We have a beautiful homeland. You go to the other reservations and they don't hardly have anything, and they come here and they just say, you guys, you have a beautiful homeland, and that's why we have something beautiful to fight for. And it can't be just the council, it has to be you too. We need your help, and you need your help in is calling them Congress people. The more of us talk to them, the better, because it looks like 4 of them switched on the Canadian thing. 4 of them went against Trump. So they're starting to hear. And I'll close with this. I was watching a town hall in Pennsylvania, and all these people were just packed in this building, and their Republicans weren't there. So one lady said, well, if our congressmen ain't going to show up, let's get a hold of Bernie Sanders and AOC. They'll show up. They're going everywhere. So anyway, thank you, and Lemlemsh, have an amazing Easter and a good, safe rest of your day.
Thank you, James. Jennifer?
So Lemlemsh, thank you for the opportunity to serve the people, to serve the membership. One of the things that I wanted to say is that I'm really glad that Medicaid expansion passed. So Medicaid expansion provides health care to low-income adults, which is a lot of people in Montana. And it was a really great team effort. So I literally got the words from Tribal Health. They had a team that prepared statements for me, and I think I testified at the state legislature 4 or 5 times on behalf of Medicaid expansion. And it passed, and so I'm really glad that our state, as Republican as it is for Medicaid expansion in Montana. So that's one of the things that I've done in this last quarter. I also attended a meeting in Helena with some other tribal council members in Lake County on PL 280 talks. And one thing that I found out that was really interesting, some of the Lake County commissioners came and met with us before we had that meeting. CSKT as an entity is the 2nd largest taxpayer in Lake County. And there are a lot of us, individual tribal members, myself included, who own fee property, which means I individually pay taxes to Lake County. So one of the questions that I had is, if you're going to take our tax dollars, how can you deny any services to us for that? You owe us services for the money, unless you want to give us our tax dollars back. So I just thought that was an interesting piece of information that people should know, that a lot of tribal members pay taxes in Lake County, and when you pay taxes, you're supposed to get something for that. We also met with the governor, the lieutenant governor, on gaming issues, and I think the gaming folks have some exciting news coming forward about some developments in that. And I also attended a Reservation Economic Summit, and when I was at that information, I went to one of the presentations that I went to was from the Department of Energy, and I brought back a couple grant opportunities to CSKT, and I know that staff is working on those grants to apply for them, so I'm not saying we're going to get them. But one of the grants, if we get it, would supply each tribal member up to $14,000 to upgrade their appliances to energy efficiency appliances. So I was really happy to bring that grant opportunity back to CSKT, and really grateful when I brought it to staff, they were on it like that to meet and strategize about how to apply for those dollars. I also attended the Three Chiefs Center open house that they had a few weeks ago, and I'm just really grateful to the three chief staff because they really are ambassadors for our tribe. When people come here and they don't know anything about us, they can go to the Three Chief Center and learn about us. I also learned that all of the items in their gift shop are from Native-owned companies. So even if they're made in another place, the company that they come from is Native-owned. So anyway, and then, you know, they just talked about how they're protecting our artifacts and our information and being good ambassadors for our people. And I also just wanted to kind of reiterate what Tom and James talked about in terms of, I think of it as fighting fascism in our country. And I think that as Native people, as long as we have something that's worth wanting, we're going to have to fight to protect it. Always. And it's exhausting to always be in fight mode. But one of the things that I personally do is I have found organizations that I believe in who are fighting fascism, and I've donated money to them. And I encourage all of you to donate money to an organization that's fighting for something that you believe in, whatever that is. Even if you only donate $5, if 100,000 people donated $5 to something, it would add up to a lot. And I think any active resistance that you engage in that's legal is important, and it makes a difference, and it moves the needle. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is personally. I've identified organizations that I believe in that are doing really important social justice work, and I've donated money to them, and I will continue donating money to them. And another thing that you can do from your phone, just this morning, I sent emails to Danes, to Sheehy, and you can do that from your phone. You can send an email. You don't have to call in. You can do an email to our congressional representatives and voice your opinion, and it does matter. Your voice always matters, so I just encourage you to do that. It doesn't take very long. You can call, you can go on their website. There's a form you can fill out and make your voice be heard. But right now we're in a critical time, and every act of resistance matters. I saw a meme the other day about the Holocaust, and it said, you wonder in the Holocaust who the people were who said nothing, who did nothing, who tried to ride it out and just hope it wasn't them. Let's not be those people. Let's be the people who resisted. Let's be the people who fight. Lemlemsh.
Thank you, Jennifer. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank everybody who came today. Definitely thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting our tribes and our people, our community. I want to thank the drum. Thank those that raised their voices today, that spoke. Sam, Shirley, Stephen. Really important that we listen, and I agree. It was good to bring the people's voice back to the beginning of the meeting. It's a good move, and that's what quarterlies are for. As with every council meeting, we try to make sure the tribe members that show up, you get to speak first, and that's really important for us. This past quarter has been very interesting. You know, I started preparing for this administration change right when the election happened and saw what I was going to do, because Project 2025 was out there. I started stockpiling food that was coming from other countries in my pantry because the price is going to go up. When I was taking my dog to the vet Wednesday after my technical management team meeting for Flathead Lake and the Columbia Basin, I was taking pictures in Rosars of the vegetables and the fruit sections, because in that Rosars over by Winco, they say what country it comes from. So I just wanted to document just to see. So I'll check next week when I take my dog back next Wednesday and the Wednesday after to see how much those prices are going up. But we started preparing, my wife and I, for that for our whole household. And so it started to happen. And so as we think about the cuts to our food programs, Jordan's food sovereignty program, the school lunch programs, the, commodity program, whatever it might be, SNAP, food stamps, whatever you want to think about it, feeding the world, having humanitarian effort to make sure people aren't starving to death. To think about all those things are getting cut right now. We need to be able to be prepared for that. So what are the things that we were doing locally? What have we been doing? Well, we wrote a grant and we got set aside money to put on our own meat processing plant. We just approved this last quarter the contract to move forward to build that plant in Ronan. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're going to reduce some costs. We're going to be able to provide meat cutting services to our members for their wild game meat. Be able to take our bison that we renewed last year, our MOA with the Yellowstone National Park to bring ship to slaughter bison here. And we are in the full gauntlet of that right now. I think we've received 450 bison or more to date. And if you haven't signed up to get a bison, please do, because there are probably still some opportunity to do that. That some of us out here on council probably have. I got one bison. I put everybody in my family's name in there because it's a draw, just to make sure I might be able to get one. But that's really important, is to be able to say that we are working on trying to feed our people. If that means expand our buffalo program, then let's do it. Does that mean expand our own food processing capabilities, grow our own food? Let's start doing it, because we can see what's happening. We can see we need to spend emphasis on that. We need to spend some time on that. So that's been one of the couple of things we've been doing. We actually started some meetings about bringing the live buffalo from Yellowstone here in a quarantine program and having our own facility. So council will be weighing that here this next quarter, whether we want to do that. So what does that mean? That means that those buffalo that would have gone to ship to slaughter kind of program but are disease free, we could start our own herds with those. We could move them to our sister tribes, as Sam talks about, and surely, all of our relative tribes, let them start their own herds, let them supplement other herds that are going, because that's what we need to do. We need to feed our own people. And so if we can, every tribe should have their own buffalo herd. They should have their own subsistence herds, and look at that as a good food source for our people. So we'll be looking at that opportunity where we would be moving maybe a couple hundred buffalo here to either start our own buffalo production system to feed our people, or just be that conduit for other tribes to be able to utilize that. That's an important thing, and we're working on. I've been working on the International Joint Commission with Canada and the United States on water pollution in the headwaters of I report on this every quarter. I was worried that this current situation, as James has talked about with our good friends in Canada, that it might jeopardize the work of us trying to stop this horrendous water pollution coming across the border into the Kootenai River, Lake Koocanusa, downstream into our watershed. That's important for our Kasanka people and for our Gillespie people. That we work on we continue to work on trying to get that mining pollution that's causing impacts to the watershed reduced and eliminated. I was worried that we might lose that under the Trump administration, but so far, knock on wood, we haven't. We're moving forward, making some steps ahead on that effort. I also spend time on affiliated tribes and Northwest Indians, as Martin does, and we've been doing lots of resolutions, as the other our Congress of Native American Indians also works on. All these issues in Indian country with this administration, voicing concerns and resolutions to show our opposition, calling folks, but they came to realize, all of our sister tribes downriver, that we are in a better spot because their congressional Democratic representatives or senators, this administration isn't listened to at all. So they can go talk to their congressmen or senators, and it's like, and then the senator tries to say something on their behalf to this administration. It's like talking to a wall. We're in a different position because all of ours, as I mentioned earlier, are Republicans. And so the Trump administration is listening to Steve Daines, and he is listening to Zinke, and he is listening to Sheehy. and Downing, or whatever his name is. And so it's important that we voice those concerns that we have to those folks. And I'll say that again. Anyway, also working on Native Americans and philanthropy. I'm a board member for that on their advisory board member. And so as the federal government has been pulling back grants for projects, and a lot of projects are, you leverage, you end up leveraging what money you have, but maybe it might be 3 or 4 funding sources that put something together, like say our meat processing plant. Now all of a sudden one of those has been pulled back by this federal administration, and the funding's not there, and jeopardizes the entire project. Well, how can we provide bridge funding at least that would keep the project going? Well, that's with foundation giving, that's for private giving, that's philanthropy. And so we've been working hard to try to identify those projects that are in jeopardy, that private giving can now step in and meet that need that got pulled back by the federal government. So we're really working on a lot of those, trying to identify in Indian country what could be. But one of the key things that we came to in a conclusion is that, like Buffalo, is one of those key things that are so important. And it hits so many things with so many tribes, where cultural revitalization, connection to the land, a healthy food source, and treating the environment right. So we really looked at trying to support Buffalo projects that have lost some funding through the federal agency cuts and pullbacks. So that's going to be a cornerstone of what we're looking at. Our tribes, and looking at everything going up. Everything's going up. Price of everything goes up. Price of heating your home goes up. So we were looking at providing some additional assistance to LEAP beneficiaries, or those customers to pay their heating bills. And we'll try to assist with that. We'll try to do some long-range things to try to figure out how we can assist every tribal member in that way. We will study and we will revisit the amount of our per capita payments to see if we can't inflate that to fight inflation that everybody's facing right now. But we're gonna look at that very seriously and see what we can do here in this next quarter for that. Carol mentioned the skate parks, as Danielle did, and we are going to be building some more skate parks, and they are doing the groundbreaking in agency, which is really exciting, and hopefully we can move forward with more projects. And the push play playground thing is a key thing for another foundation that's giving to our reservation communities, and that's building, as Carol said, these playground facilities that incorporate language and our native species into the playground itself. And so it's a really interactive playground that brings elders to be able to go on the landscape with their toddlers, with their grandchildren, with their great-grandchildren, to be on that landscape. And our first project is in Ronan. We hope to be able to get that fully installed by this fall. Some of the equipment will start, Carol mentioned that the equipment will start coming in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll stockpile that, get the site ready, but it's right adjacent to where the skate park is over by the new tribal health facility here in Ronan. So that's really exciting for us. We are working on, as always, trying to be able to be more self-sufficient and raise money to be able to pay for our programs. And you know, when Sam talked about, you know, using, you know, the outdoors, be able to use horses for therapy, et cetera. That was one of the things I always envisioned with us in capturing back the bison range, is that that's where we had a horse herd. We could expand our horse herd. We have that whole facility, and talk about what a great facility to be part of your treatment, part of the therapy for our people. In the heart of our reservation is that landscape of the bison range. But to be able to pay for that facility and expand services, we need to bring up some revenue. And the only way we can really bring up revenue is to be able to have a second entrance at Ravalli Hill, to bring up the gate receipts, to be able to provide some of these services and help pay for the bison range itself. So there's an opportunity. We're working on that. I know there's planning for that. Jordan's been working on that. I can't remember who. Whisper, is that right? Yeah. So that's moving forward. That's an important aspect of what's going on. Medicare B. Again, one of those things. The federal government is talking about cutting that. maybe all of Medicare. Medicare A, B, C, D, the entire lineup. Well, we made some great strides to be able to say, you know what, if you're eligible for Medicare as a tribal member, senior citizen, we're going to pay that premium for you out of our direct care Indian Health Service. What a wonderful thing, because that's expanding the ability for you to get good health care in an efficient way anywhere you want to go. And so it's in jeopardy right now if they start doing cuts to that federal program of Medicare. We don't want to see that. So it's another thing when you call your congressional office, don't mess with Social Security, don't mess with Medicare, and please don't mess with Medicaid. Because Medicaid is a payer of first resort for our Indian health care. And if we lose Medicare, then all of our direct, it's gonna be such a compounding, exaggerated consequence to Indian Health Service. I can't even begin to state it because it's significant. And when Joe Durgalo brings in his monthly or quarterly reports, you can see how much we get reimbursed from Medicaid. It's very important for our services we provide, so it needs to stay there, as does Medicare, both A and B, and those that are out there that use more. So the Medicare B was something they started doing signups for this last quarter, and I was glad to see that happen. I've been pushing that for a couple of years, and glad we'll be able to do that direct payment for insurance for our membership and have expanded healthcare coverage. It's a wonderful thing, and I hate to see it be jeopardized by this current administration. I just can't. Every day I lose sleep over this administration. I have to turn off the news because it's so mind-numbing, and to think, James talked about. I mean, I was there in the '60s and the '70s, and what an enlightenment period I thought to see our young people come forward as being one of them and protest and try to change things, change the paradigms in this country. To see us go backwards now. We're going backwards in our evolution. It's horrible. I can't believe it's happening. So I wish I would have done a better job getting more people to vote. Vote for the alternative of Donald Trump. Vote for the alternative of he called it Make America Great Again. It's really Make America Greedy Again, is what he's doing. And so it's so critical that every one of you, if you're concerned about your Social Security, you're concerned about your health care, you're concerned about being a human and treating other people with respect, making sure someone's not starving to death, that they have shelter. If you're concerned about the environment, you need to say those things and call a congressman, because I can tell you right now, the path we're going on right now, it doesn't have any of those concerns. They don't. So you really need to make your voices known. So, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Martin, are you available? Yeah, I see his.
Mr. Chair, sorry, took me a minute to get off Zoom.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin, with your report.
Hassanyak, good afternoon. Sorry I can't be there in person. Some personal things, elderly father, things like that. I guess I'm not going to be very long at all. Everyone's kind of covered the things that we've been working on. The big thing is the skate park in Pablo will have a grand opening May 24th, and we'll start that about 12 o'clock. Haven't figured out the details yet, except we just nailed down the time and date. So we'll be in the planning process of that. If anyone wants to help, contribute, would be appreciated. The big thing would be the FIP project, the Flathead Irrigation Project. Thankfully, the cuts that went through some of the early retirement options, we had staff who were out the door who chose to come back and make the project run this summer. So water will be delivered, and that's something that's really, we owe Eric at FIP a great deal of gratitude for him and his leadership and his team And so I just want to make sure that that is something that if you have water delivered this summer, make sure you extend a thank you to Eric. And it was a great week. Got to go to Medicine Tree. Got to see a lot of people. I thank the culture committee for kind of last minute getting the sandwiches together and everything, and their apprentices with all that they did. And then also I want to make sure I thank the Lands crew. I believe Calvin Shepard and some of the others from Lands went down there to Darby and did some landscaping, put some benches in, made the path wider for our people that are a little less mobile. So I want to make sure we thank them as well. So I will end there. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, membership. Thank you, council. Lemons.
Thank you, Martin. And I won't waste any more of your time to speak of. Most everything we've been doing this past quarter has been spoken of. I just want to remind everybody that this is the season where our kids will be graduating fairly soon from schools. They're all out there doing their athletics, and don't forget your kids and pray for them and keep them safe. And I'll close with that. And thank you all. We are adjourned.